Okay, guys, welcome back to Let's Get Freaky podcast. I'm super excited. I've got an awesome guest with us tonight. I met this gentleman a couple of months ago now at the Cryptid Conference UK. He told me some stuff, and I was like, "Whoa, I've got to get this man on the podcast." So I'm super excited to welcome Paul Howard to the show. How are you, sir? Thank you very much
Uh,
for being here.
Hi, mate. Yeah, very well, thank you. And hello to all your followers and listeners. So, my name's Paul Howard, and I'm from Host For Ghosts.
Awesome, man. So I don't often meet people that I'm interviewing, especially not before. So we met, as I said,
Yeah,
a couple of months ago at the Cryptid Conference, which was an awesome event.
yeah,
You
very,
run by Daniel Barnett in Somerset.
yeah,
Great, great. It's so cool to be around so many like-minded people. You know,
absolutely.
everyone that is there for the Bigfoot.
Yeah, it's nice to share an interest with people that understand and don't look at you weirdly.
Hmm.
You know, like
Hmm.
when you talk about the paranormal or Bigfoot or things like that, people tend to look at you a bit oddly. So it's nice sometimes to meet people that share that same interest with you.
Hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. When I talk to people at work about Bigfoot, I get that look. Like, okay, Tommy. But
Yeah,
as I always say, unless you look into this kind of thing, the more you look into it, the more it doesn't sound so crazy. That's what
yeah,
I say.
yeah.
And since we spoke, I've been very excited to talk to you, man. So thank you very much for
Me
doing
too.
this.
Me too.
I'd like to go to the start, where it all began for you. How did you get into the paranormal?
Well, it started probably 25, 30 years ago, really, when I was living at home. I had my own house and etc. stuff. And I woke up about, must have been 2:15 in the early hours of the morning with that feeling. I was laying there and I never realized I sort of had psychic skills or medium or whatever. I was just a normal man going about his daily business, raising a family, etc. And it's about 2 o'clock, 2:15. I suddenly woke because I felt that someone was in the room, just literally, and I bolted upright because I thought someone had broken in. But unbeknown to me, at the foot of my bed was my nan standing there, who had died on the Silver Jubilee in 1977. I thought, well, that's very strange. That's a bit odd. But she was just standing there looking at me, and it's just how I remember her when I last saw her. And then within seconds she'd gone. And I thought, okay, so I lay back down and thought, oh, maybe I'm having a dream. And I didn't realize it didn't fully take on the aspect of what was going on. So at this point, my ex wife then didn't believe in any of this type of stuff. So I thought, well, who do I talk to? Okay. So I kept it to myself. And then the next night, about 20 past 3, the same thing happened again. I woke up and there she was standing at the end of the bed. And I'm thinking, now that's 2 nights in a row, so it can't be a dream, am I just imagining something? And I sort of sat up, and I could see her, and she was like staring at me. It's quite freaky, I suppose, if you're not into the paranormal. You think, what on earth is this? And I knew it was her because I could clearly see her. And I sort of laid back down and looked again, and she'd gone. And this happened for like 3 nights in a row. And on the fourth night, she came back again, but this time it was about 20 past 2 in the morning. So I looked at my clock on the side bed, and I looked at the clock, and it was 02:14 or 16, something like that. And as I looked at her, I sort of sat up, and I could see her saying something with her mouth, but there was no voice. And then she like leaned forward towards me and then said something, and then just disappeared in front of me. And I'm like, what did she say? What am I? Is she telling me something? So I started off sort of thinking about that, really, thinking, how do I know what she said? How can I not know what she's saying? And then was Spirit up there had a plan for me? Because a few weeks later, I lived in Egham then. In the Royal Holloway University, there was a break off part for adults education called, I can't remember the name of it. It'll come to me in a minute. And they were running a parapsychology course. And I thought, oh, I wonder if that will help me get the answer to what she was saying. So I signed up for the parapsychology course, and I did it for 3.5 years. But we had younger students there that were doing it as part of a bigger master's course and degrees. And I nearly had the name there. So I carried on sort of did that for 3 years. There was myself and another guy that had families. So we were running sort of after work, homework, where they were doing it through the day. We, as mature students, we were doing it weekends, sort of always playing catch up, if you like, but we was always going in there. So I stayed the 3.5 years and we both did it and left with distinction. And that sort of then sort of made me answer because some of the talkers and speakers and people they had there were really interesting, like people about time travel and angels were seen at people's gates during the war, and people would walk down the streets where a house had been bombed and see this white lady standing at the end of the gate, and various things like that. And that really intrigued me. And then I asked the question, I think that we all asked, is there life after death? Does it just stop here, or do we carry on? And as I sort of went on there, and I passed obviously with distinction, and then I was approached by the Ghost Club of Great Britain and asked if could join them, and they would do very prestigious places, Hampton Court, very very top places that no other paranormal group would get into. So I was with them for a little while. That was started by Arthur Conan Doyle back in the days. So I did a bit with them, and then a local group to me where I was living asked me if I would like to come and help them and lead investigator. So I became a lead investigator into the paranormal then, and then we would do old museums, hospitals, all the places that you really want to get in and go. And that's still, even to this day, that's 25 years. I still have that passion to find out whether I will live long enough to find that passion. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I'll see the other side. But some of the things I've experienced on my way have really led me to believe that, there is life after death, but it's just that we don't know. We're striving to get that answer.
Hmm.
So, and that's what sort of
Interesting.
really pushed me into the paranormal. And I have this passion I need to find out. I want to find the answer. Whether I will ever find the answer, I don't know. But
I
it's
don't
the
know if we
answer
can in
everywhere.
this. I don't know if we can in this realm or this life. I don't know, but it's
Yeah.
it's fun trying. What
And
we do know is there definitely is more. I would
well,
say.
I've had an experience that would probably blow you away, really. I had without mentioning a name, I had a very, very dear friend of mine I'd known for many, many years. I, I forget how many years, 20 years. And when he was passing away, sadly, he said to me, because obviously we do the Monday Night Live, he said, please don't ever let that go because we worked so hard. And he said, I will come back and I will make a noise. I will knock, let you know that I'm back. I said, yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, no worries. So we went to a haunted location and we got a Ouija board out and we were with his wife then at the time. So we were on the board and we said, oh, so and so, are you here? And then it went to yes. So if you're here, can you tell me what we said together between me and you? Yes. And there was three knocks on the table, dunk, dunk, dunk. And nobody else knew
Whoa!
in the room. And I was just so emotional, blown away by it. Even Jenny was sat there with us, and she's like, "What is this?" And that is what we discussed between me and him before he died.
Wow!
So he said he
Yeah,
would do
man.
it.
Yeah.
So it sort of mind blew me to have an answer like that.
Hmm.
Whether I don't know, but it was the three knocks on the table is what we discussed before he passed. He said, "I will knock
Wow!
under the table 3 times," and
Wow!
blow me away. He did. He
How
really.
cool is that?
It's just mind blowing, isn't it? And that,
Yeah, man.
and I've sort of it just sort of spurs me on now to just keep going because whether we'll get the answer, I have seen apparitions. I have seen ghosts and spirits, which is very rare that you see an apparition. I have seen them, but I've had many experiences in the paranormal, well, from very good ones to, quite scary ones and frightening ones to being my mind blown by voice recordings and things like
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
So I just really pushes me on to the next bit to find out, just keep going.
Yeah, man. Wow, I want it all, brother. I want it. I want every experience.
Oh, I've, I've had loads. And oh yeah, the jacket. My his ex-wife, Angela's his ex-wife, isn't it?
Not his ex-wife.
His partner,
His yeah, his partner,
widow.
widow.
Yeah, she's his widow. Sorry, and she had one of his Widdowson's jackets, like a leather jacket.
Hmm.
And what was it? Jenny said it was.
There was no. She kept getting something. Um, what was it?
Something about the jacket, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, in her head, she kept getting something about the jacket.
Oh
She
yeah.
was looking for something.
And then she said to me, "Can you do you think you can connect and see what he wants me to
You
do?"
can get something all night, or
And we'd had sort of communication with because we live in a haunted house as it is. So we had bits of communication in the house
that evening.
that evening.
Hmm.
So I sort of tried to tune in and I said, right, he wants you to find this leather jacket that's got what
Got something in his
got
pocket.
something patches all over, but it's something in the pocket that you need to see. He's left you. And she said, well, won't remember a leather jacket. It's something I said, it's got patches, got badges, got something all over it.
You said it was under the stairs.
And it's I think he's showing me because in my head I could see me looking under the stairs, like a stair cupboard.
Hmm.
I said, check under the stairs. She said, well, he hasn't got a leather jacket, but I'll have a look anyway. And she went under the stairs, opened the stairs, sort of pulled the jackets out, and there it was, the leather jacket he wore with all the with the
Whoa.
badges all over it. So I'd already seen this, and he kept saying to me in my head, "Tell her to look in the pocket. Tell her to look in the pocket." So I said to you, "You need to look in the pocket. There's a note in the pocket."
No, no, no. Ring or
It was yeah, oh that's right, it was a ring. Yeah, he said that to me that there was a ring or a note in the pocket. There's something in that pocket that you really need to get out and
Hmm.
really need.
Hmm.
And so she pulled the jacket out, felt through the pockets, and sure enough, what I'd seen is the ring and the note. There was a note one side and the ring in the other pocket. So he's come
Wow.
through and made me tell her to go and look for this ring. And I think this is the ring she wears now with his initials on it.
did it say that forever?
And I said to her, he's saying to me forever love or I love you forever. And I said, look in the ring, look inside the ring. We were so passionate, me and Jen, about this ring. And she turned it over and inside said, I will love you forever.
Oh
So that
wow.
sort of
Oh
blew
man,
us
it's giving me
away.
goosebumps, man.
Yeah, it blew her away. She was
Wow.
just like, how did you get that? But sometimes spirit connects with me and give me a view of what's going on,
Hmm.
but because it was her, obviously I knew him for many years, but I didn't know he had a jacket.
Hmm.
And he guided to me to tell her to go and get the jacket and get the ring, and which is what she wears now.
Wow,
So
that's incredible, man.
it's mind blowing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not his ex.
Not his ex,
No, he's widow.
his widow, yeah. His widow, not his ex. I always get that the wrong way around, don't I?
You said that before.
Yeah. So, and that sort of really makes you think then, spirit's so
That's
clever. When they
incredible.
want to communicate, they can give you what you need to hear,
Absolutely.
and see.
Wow, man.
Steph's when
Was
you kept hearing, oh,
Oh yeah, I was at Jen's daughter's house one day working away, and I don't nobody else was there, and I was working away because I was building bunk beds. That's right, in the bedroom for the girls. So we're working away. Jen's in the other room, and I was working away, and we heard like a tap on the front door. Oh, okay.
no. Before that, you kept hearing your name.
I kept hearing something like Paul, Paul. And I'm looking around thinking, I come out, I said, Jen, did you call me? She went, no.
So I've come in.
So Jen's come in and I could hear it, Paul. And then we heard bang, bang, bang on the front, the three knocks on the front door. So we thought it was we thought it was a delivery coming in. So we went to the front door, I opened the front door, nobody there. And then as we came back in, I heard and it was his voice. I know his voice. And it said, Paul. And I heard it as clear as day. I thought,
Wow.
well, you are letting me know you're around, and we've had various things like that. I say we live in a haunted house anyway,
Hmm.
but we've had various things, and these sort of just add on to the stories as I'm going through the paranormal. I mean, where else have I been? I've been to I've done a few Aldershot Army Museum, which was had a very that was a good place. That was a very exciting place because we were the first group ever to be allowed onto an MOD base to go through the museum. And this will blow your mind. So I was there. Jen wasn't there. She was at home this time. So I was there, sort of message her. She said, "How are you?" Yeah, 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 yeah. So the funny thing is, I went on the motorbike. So as I came up to the army gate, I had a balaclava, crash helmet, everything on, made me look right like a terrorist. And you should have seen the panic on the gates as I pulled up. They were out with their guns. They were like, "Get your helmet off," shouting at me, "What are you doing?" Blah, blah, blah. So I got a bit of a telling off by the MOD for arriving at an army gate with balaclavas. Anyway, so after that, I sort of went into the museum and we were in there setting up. So we were taking guests around there at that time. So we set up a few things because in there they got like it was the old um sheds where they would have gone to sign on. So they would have signed on Aldershot and then they were shipped up to Catterick, up to the big garrison before they went to the war. So there was a lot of energy in the place. And as soon as we walked in there, we thought, cool, this is massive energy in here. It was just like it's really excited. So in a few of the rooms, had bunks set up like proper army bunks, where how they would have slept, how they had to fold their uniforms, get themselves ready, all this sort of stuff. And as I was wandering through, I messaged Jen, said, "Oh, this is an amazing place," and she said, "Why can I hear a lady saying, 'Don't forget to write'?" And I didn't hear anything. And I said, "I can't hear anything, Jen." She said, "I have just heard a lady saying, 'Don't forget to write' on a boat." And there's a lots of cheering. I said, "But there's nothing here, Jen. It's just it's a room, but lots of props." And just as I went round the corner, I sort of went into another shed, came round the corner, turned the lights on, and up on the wall was a picture of a ship with a load of soldiers on and a woman saying on the banner, "Don't forget to write."
Whoa,
And that just sort of blew me away. So I
man.
thought, well, how did she get it from that far away? And she was
Yeah.
spot on, absolutely spot on the poster. And I'm like, well, they didn't have boats in the army, Jen. And she said, "There's a boat. There's someone there saying it. I can hear her." I said, "There's nobody here. It's only
Wow.
her." So that was sort of a bit mind blowing. And we have various things happening, knocks, taps. We've even had one of the mannequins moving because we put it in a specific position and had a static camera on it because we sensed there was, even when we had guests in the room, there was knocks, taps, and it sounded like someone was walking inside the room, like the very heavy footsteps. So we turned the mannequin. I thought, I'll turn the mannequin and just use it and see if they'll turn it back. And we're like, "Hello, spirit, can you turn the mannequin? Can you move it?" And we heard like a shuffling noise. Turn back, and the mannequin's like facing us in the room where we
Oh
faced it out of the
my.
room. And we're like, okay, so everybody's in the room. Who's moved that mannequin? So you have to start to try and debunk things.
Hmm.
Somebody brushed past it on their way in, caught it, turned it round. So I rewound the static camera, and you can actually see the bottom of the mannequin's legs turn. So I thought, well, okay, we'll turn it back in case someone's brushed past it. And sometimes people are a bit embarrassed, say, "Oh, sorry, I didn't bump into it." But some people won't say that. So we always try and debunk what we get till we can no longer debunk it.
Hmm.
You know, it's all about, we could debunk 80% of what we get. The 20% is what we just don't know. So I turned the mannequin down around again, facing out of the room, but it stayed that way. So we went out of the room and I thought, I'm going to go back. I've got to have a look at that footage. And as I went back, it was facing the room again.
Oh
And yet the
man.
footage just shows the body turn and that's it. You can't see anything move it. It just turned. And I know there was nobody in that room because as we come out, we lock the room so nobody can go in there to disturb because it's like you've set it up so it's got a static camera, so everything's set up so nobody's in the room, nobody can disturb anything. The camera's a sensitive movement like PIR, so anything moves, they instantly switch on. Otherwise, if they're running all the time, they can run out of power or run out of film or whatever. So we tend to have them on a movement sensor. So if someone moves or a noise, because the ones I have also work on noise. So if there's a knock, it will switch the camera on,
Hmm.
and the camera will start to record or take fast snaps. So that was a really, really exciting start to an investigation there.
Yeah, mannequins freak me out as well. They're quite
Yeah.
scary.
Dolls scare
They
me.
just look absolutely same, man. Yeah. A lot of people
I
have
don't,
these haunted dolls.
yeah.
Not for me, man.
A friend of mine had about 12 haunted dolls, and he swears by them. I can't. They follow
Nah,
me around the room. They look at me going around that room. I can't
absolutely.
be dealing with
I've
that.
got two daughters and they've got loads of dolls, and even they freak me out. Even they're hopefully not haunted dolls freak me out as well. Oh, I've
Yeah,
lost you, brother.
yeah.
Oh,
There we
you're
go.
back. There we go. We're back. I thought we was having a paranormal experience there.
It wouldn't surprise me because sometimes during our Monday Night Live, we have voices come through.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we've had
That's
voices,
interesting.
noises halfway through the podcast as we're chatting away. We suddenly hear a woman's voice or a child's voice or a man's voice come through. Say hello, hello,
Oh,
hello.
man.
And we're thinking, is that a bleed over from, where it's being podcast or and we're
Hmm.
saying, Spirit, if that's you, can you make that, can you say something again? You'll go, hello, hello.
Oh,
And you think,
wow.
oh, how can that happen? But they're so clever that we
Absolutely.
don't we don't know whose room it's coming from because it's got to be coming from one of the houses, but we're really not sure whose house it's actually coming from. So
I was doing a podcast once where we was all talking. I can't remember what episode it was, but we was all talking. There was three of us, and you could hear another conversation going on. You could hear someone, and I said,
oh
"Sorry,
wow,
guys, has someone got a telly on in their room?"
yeah,
Like no problem if you have. I can hear it, and
yeah, yeah,
they were like, "No, none of us have got anything else in our room." And I was like, "There's definitely been another voice," and
oh
you can
wow,
hear it back when I listen
yeah,
back and I put it out. You can hear that there is another voice. It's either another conversation going on or
yeah,
someone trying to talk to us. So that does happen where things seem
yeah,
to
yeah. And
connect through.
we sort of went back on the live and had a look to see whether it's any bleed from something, but we couldn't find out what it was. But it's similar, like a very faint conversation. But there was definitely a woman saying, hello, hello, hello. We're like, hello?
Wow.
Like, so we were sort of all, but there was about six of us on there all going, looking at each other, going, who's that? Hello, hello, she's going. We're like, hello? So that's
Wow.
quite freaky, really, when you get that
Absolutely.
through. And of course, then we look at that, and then we go back over the replay and try and work out if it's someone's bleeding over or it's got to have been from someone's house. I assume. I don't know, but we could never have get to the bottom. But it often happens to us. So if you get
Interesting.
voices on this,
Yeah.
'cause we do live in a haunted house. So if you do get voices on, don't be surprised.
Oh man, yeah. Well, I have some weird things happen in this house as well. So the chances are together we're going to create some craziness.
Nice, nice what we like. Nice
Going
what we
back to
like.
when you saw your grandmother,
Yeah,
was she like a solid form? Was that like a solid?
she was like, yeah, she was just how I remember her, like the tight grey curly hair, little round glasses, and she always had an apron on that I always recognised as a child because she would always wear the apron to make cakes, and I think she came in that form so she didn't scare me because I think sometimes. You can get a shadow figure, as we call it, down the bottom of the bed, which has no facial features, which would completely freak you, wouldn't you? You think, who is standing down? But she came in a form that how I remembered her. So it's like it did frighten me a bit because I didn't understand what was going on and why, because I wasn't into the paranormal at that time. And I always remember she looked to me how I remember her as a child. When we would go over there on a Saturday and she was like cooking cake, she'd have this pinny on and her little round glasses and her really tight hair. And it was just her. I know when I looked, I thought, that's Nan.
Mhm.
And it sort of didn't, at the first two nights, it sort of worried me because I'm thinking, am I going mad? Am I seeing things? Am I dreaming? Couldn't really get my head around it. But as for the third and fourth night, I thought, well, this can't be a dream. She's trying to tell me something. And obviously, I couldn't see or hear what she had said. Maybe if I was into mediumship, psychic, or whatever, I may have heard her. but I wasn't at that time. It wasn't until later on in my life that I met Jen, that Jen really pushed me into the media, to the psychic and that type of stuff. But she voiced something in front of me. I could see her lips move quite clearly, but I
Hmm.
couldn't see what she said. And as I sort of got closer, and it was like she'd gone, it's literally disappeared. But she was, as I remember her, she was slightly hazy, like a heat haze around her. But I could tell the face, the hair, the glasses, and the pinny. I recognised the pinny straight away, and the little round glasses she would wear. And I thought, that's my nan. But how can that be? She died in 1977, and this would have been 10 or 11 years later.
Hmm.
So it was quite a
Wow.
way on before she reappeared. But I was
Yeah.
very, very close to my nan at that time when I
Hmm.
was a child.
Hmm.
So I think whether she come back to make me go into the paranormal side and sort of saying, you got to do this to understand it, I don't know. But she was the one that sort of gave me the inspiration into sort of trying to seek the answer, if you want, for
Hmm.
want of a word, trying to
Interesting.
find out
Yeah,
really
I
and
think
to
when you have
figure
an
out.
experience like that, that's undeniable. You
Yeah,
you are then open. I think I really believe that, like, you can't deny that experience. Like, I
yeah,
had an experience when I was 10 where I woke up during the night and there was a man sitting there in my room, full-bodied apparition. And for me, from that moment on, anything is possible now,
yeah,
and I think that's
yeah,
probably why we do paranormal. I do a
yeah,
podcast, and we do paranormal stuff. I think that's what
yeah.
it is. It's
I
just
think
built
we're
in
more
us.
open to it, aren't we, now? Because
Absolutely.
we've had
Yeah.
that experience, that startup experience, where sometimes you get guests on paranormal nights that don't have that startup experience like we do,
Hmm.
but also we have the passion. And I think that's a lot to do with the spirit world. They like the passion, they like the energy, you know, they know that you're not going to harm them because, on lots of investigations, they're sussing you out as much as you're sussing them out. So they don't want to come to a negative energy, you know, if, and we all seek that one answer, don't we? Is there life after death?
Hmm.
This is the answer we're looking for. Like I said to you in the beginning, if ever, will we ever find it? Who knows? Maybe
Yeah.
not.
We're going to have
Maybe,
fun trying, though.
but it's the passion trying to find it. You
How,
know,
how often do you see spirits now?
um, depends how open I am. Sometimes I'll see things here like shadows, and Jen sees, and we see. Sometimes we're sitting here and we'll see something move in the hallway, and I have a video out there on the net that you can watch, and what was caught in our house, you know, which was just through an experiment on a camera I was using, and I thought I'd just try it one night. So we had various things build up in the house leading up to putting the camera on. So we've had like the clock came off the wall at 2 o'clock in the morning, crash, bang, wallop in the kitchen, frightened the life out of us because obviously we were fast asleep. We thought, well, how can that come out of the wall? Because the fixing was still on the wall. So, well, that's very strange. And then one day we had the windows open during the summer, and Jen said, "Oh, what's that noise?" And we could hear like a whooshing type noise. Well, that's really odd. So we went out of the kitchen, and a lemonade bottle was spinning in the middle of the kitchen, and it just fell down and rolled over. And we think that was spirit saying to us, "You'd left the windows open in the kitchen to give us a warning," that sort of thing. So we thought, well, that's very strange. So I had gone out and I'd been experimenting with various cameras, track cameras and static cameras, various cameras, because I like to try these things before I take on an investigation. So
Kept smelling smoke.
we kept smelling smoke, and neither of us smokers, and
Hmm.
nobody, because we live in a block of bungalows, so nobody here smokes. So we're thinking, well, that's very odd. There's a smoking smell. Anyway, so I bought this camera. I thought I'll give this a try and see how it is at night. So I put it by the TV on a bookcase, made sure everything was shut, quiet, and left the front room door slightly ajar, but not very far. And if obviously you can see this on the video if you go looking for it. So we got up in the morning, hadn't heard anything all night, and I looked.
You hadn't. I had.
Jen heard what she thought was knocks and taps during the night, but we often get that. So I poked my head in the morning before I went to work, and the camera was flashing like it had recorded something. I thought, oh, well, that's good. It's got something, the knocks and the taps, as Jen would say. So I came back that night, put it on my laptop, was going back through it. It's recorded for about 6 or 7 hours. So it switched on quite early in its time. So going through 6 or 7 hours footage, you know yourself, takes months. So I was going backwards and forwards, and then suddenly I saw it. So this is just mind blowing, really. So if you see the video, you'll understand from the video what we're looking at. So the camera switches on. So you see the room come onto the camera, okay? And a few seconds later, like a breath on the
Whoa.
camera. And we're like, what? And then suddenly there was a lot of static in the room and the camera started shaking. Like if I sort of show it starts to do that, like that. So the camera actually starts to shake with the energy building in the room. So the camera then comes on, switches off, and then comes back on again. So now it's seeing movement. So it's now looking at movement. So through the door was slightly ajar, but the next view from the camera, the door was wide open. And in that view, you could see a woman suddenly appear out of nowhere, literally appears, sticks her head round the corner of the door, and she's got a child spirit next to her in the hallway. She looks around the room, and then you hear dunk dunk, and then you actually see her disappear down it and come into the room as an orb and disappear, but the child spirit's still there. And I said to Jen, "Oh my God, you got to look at this." I said, "I don't actually know what we've caught here." And all the years I've been, it's very rare that you can catch footage it how it is. So I showed Jen. She's like, "Oh my God, what's that? Look at the door gap. Look at this. Look at that." So we looked at it, and a very good friend of mine is a paranormal investigator on TV. So I thought I've got to show him. Sorry. So I sent it to him. I said, "Have a look at this and see what you think." So he's come back to me about 3 or 4 days later saying, "Oh my God, what is that on the camera?" I said, "I don't know. That's why I'm asking for your experience." He said, "Would you mind if I send it to 5 other people to have them look at it?" I said, "No, that's fine. Obviously, you have to copyright it because obviously you don't want people stealing your video."
Mm-hmm.
So weeks have gone past. I hadn't heard from him. I messaged him and said, "Any luck?" He said, "I'm just waiting for one more person to come back to me." So I said, "Oh, okay." And then, a month and a half, 2 months, I get a phone call from a production company saying, "We've seen your video and we want to use it." And I'm like, "Right, who are you? What production company are you?" And they told us the company. And I said, "Oh, okay," because I knew it was a company to do with my friend. So I phoned my friend and said, "Look, this is why." He said, "Yeah, that's fine." I did ask him. He said, "I've just got the last message back and it's from the police, someone he knows in the police that deals with photographic evidence and things like that." He said, "If we're going to launch it onto the TV, we need to make sure that it is true to the film and it hasn't been tampered with." I said, "Yeah, that's fine." And he come back, he said, "You're not going to believe what they found." I said, "Well, go on then." He said, the video is true footage. It is absolutely true footage. He said, "But did you notice the time?" I said, "Well, no, I noticed what time the video switched on and then the film ended." He said, "No, but in the film, they can get what they call the metadata, which is the time the film started, the angle of the camera, the height of the camera. They can get all this information from out of the film." So the first clip you see it starts filming with the breath, the static, at 03:07 in the early hours of the morning. When the camera stops and reappears and it starts filming again, and where the lady reappears and then disappears, the camera shows 03:06. So it's gone back a minute on the second part of the recording. And the police saying they've never ever seen anything that took the time back a minute.
Whoa, so it's like a
And
time slip.
I never saw that because obviously I don't have the equipment to get the metadata out of the screen. But the police were saying, his friend was saying, "We've never seen," and he said, "and it's a true footage." He said, "Where time has gone backwards by a minute." And I'm like,
Wow.
oh, I've never seen that before.
Wow,
And so,
man. No, I've never even heard that. So you've got an entity or two entities, and you've also caught a time slip. That's
yeah,
incredible.
where she arrived, the first breath and the static and the massive buildup of that energy in the front room, because you can hear it's like, And then it goes quiet and the camera stops. And I think, why does the camera stop then? And then the camera zooms into the gap of the door and the door's now open. And then when you look, you actually see her face look around the corner of the door and look back again.
Oh,
And then you
wow.
see the child there. But I didn't realise that the time had changed.
That's incredible, man.
But they picked it up. The person that looked at the metadata and analysed it before it went onto the TV and then went worldwide because they have to verify its true footage. So they'd never seen anything like it. And I hadn't picked up on the time because all I
Wow.
just saw was 3:07 in the morning when it first started to switch on. So I hadn't picked up that it'd gone back. So how that,
Wow.
I don't know how that's happened.
That's incredible. I mean, they do say in the spirit world that time is irrelevant and
Yeah,
that time, how we perceive time where we are is it doesn't count in the spirit world. So
yeah,
that makes a
yeah,
lot of sense, man. I mean,
yeah.
whoa.
It's completely mind blowing, and it's been on the TV round now, and and we sort of asked our next door neighbours, did the lady, because the lady that lived here passed away here, sadly, bless her, and she was a heavy smoker. So that made sense of the smoke we could smell. So we showed them the video and he went, that's her. That's the lady
Wow.
that used to live there.
So is
And
she
we
like
were
in
like,
color and stuff? Could you see like features
no,
and things
she's
like that?
clear. She's clear as a clear it, you know, I can give you the link or whatever, and you can go and have a look
Yeah, thank
yourself.
you.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I'll send you the link. Go and have a look at it, and it's just completely mind blowing, because you
Wow.
can actually see right through them. So although you can see the facial features, and you have to watch it 2 or 3 times because it's very quick. She appears, looks around the door, and then you hear dunk dunk, and then you actually see her disappear down, and then come in as an orb and disappear out the room. And we
Wow.
were like, "Oh my god!"
That's
And a few people that have
incredible.
seen it have messaged us and said, we've never seen anything like it. Obviously, you get your people say, no, you've made it up. It's false, and which they warned us that would possibly happen
Yeah.
when it was on the
We
TV.
ignore
And
them. We ignore them.
yeah, yeah, we know what we call. We know it's
Absolutely.
justified, and we know that it's been through all the rigmarole with the police and various people to check the camera, the roll, and even had my camera for 6 weeks checking the camera. And they
Hmm.
said this is actually true footage. What you've got
Wow.
there is never seen before footage of an apparition appearing, looking, and then disappearing and traveling out. It's never been seen before. So
Wow. And the time slip as well. That's incredible, man. I'll share
yeah,
that link in the show description so
yeah,
people
sure,
can go and check
yeah,
that out as well.
yeah. I'll send it to
Man.
you.
Wow.
Oh, and when my partner Jenny came to look to view the house when the lady passed away, we have a little white Maltese dog. And
Hmm.
as she was walking up the path, she had the dog under her arm. And the lady next door said, "Oh, what are you doing with Lily?" She said, "Lily? No, my dog's Poppy." She said, "No, it's Lily." I said, "No, it's Poppy." She said, "Do you know the lady next door had exactly the same dog? Exactly the same."
Oh,
She said, "I thought
wow.
you'd had the lady's dog." So that's
Man.
that
Another thing.
another thing
What's
that
the
added
chances
to it.
of that? Yeah. I don't
And
believe in coincidences anymore.
No, no, we don't believe in coincidences. To be honest, we've had too many things happen. People say, "Oh, it's just a coincidence," but the chances of walking around the corner with the
There's
same
too
dog
many. There's too many
and that
coincidences,
sort of
man.
thing.
Yeah.
the other, sorry, the
That's all
other
right.
thing, the other thing, I knew, Spirit told me that someone had to pass before I got this place. I was
Oh,
told that. Spirit told me.
wow.
Yeah.
Man, I'm gonna have to get you on the podcast as well.
Oh, she's
we
got
got,
some stories to tell you,
yeah,
mate.
we got
Really,
to.
yeah, she really has got some stories. But
So interesting.
yeah, things like that happen to us quite often. We have knocks and taps and bits happen here, like you say yourself
Oh,
in your house,
Hmm.
the picture,
and then
picture, one night, the picture came off the wall.
oh yeah,
I didn't wake up, but you did.
I heard the picture in the hallway come off the wall and hit the ground. I'm a very light sleeper, and I heard this dunk dunk bang, and I thought, what on earth is that? So I got up, came out in the hallway, and sure enough, the picture was laying face down in the hallway, and the fixing was still in the wall, bit like the clock, where the fixing was still in the wall for the clock.
Hmm.
And, it was just absolutely mind blowing, really, to what goes on here.
Absolutely.
We do have some odd things happen to us.
Yeah.
Hmm.
One
Absolutely, man.
one day I was doing that thing where you You got to come home to drop some stuff off, shopping, and
Hmm.
go back out again. As I've opened the front door, I thought, oh no, I can hear like conversation going on between um, a woman and a child. And I thought, oh, my daughter's obviously popped in, grabbed the key, popped in to see me. As I've walked through the into the living room, there's no one in here, right? She
And
wasn't here.
and
No
it's a
one was
woman and
here.
child as well,
I
like in the
could hear a
video.
woman and child talking.
So it
Wow,
could be the woman and child that we got on the video. We don't know, but
man,
I'll send you the link to the video and have a look at it.
that is
So
wild.
it's quite mind blowing when you see it.
Yeah.
But we have all sorts of things, really.
Yeah, man. I've got to hear the time travel story. You have to tell me
Oh,
that. I've been waiting for
okay.
this since we met at the Cryptid conference. I am very
Right.
excited for this. Andy Decodes as well. Shout out Andy Decodes has been telling me
Yeah.
how amazing
Good,
this is as
Andy.
well.
Yeah. A big follower of Andy and yourself. I always follow you, both of you, watch him. And, I was talking to him about it on his podcast, and he's just, oh, you got to tell Tommy, you got to tell Tommy, you got to tell him. He said, I've never, so many years ago, I had a very good friend I'd known for like 30 odd years, and he's a bit, not a loner, but he quite likes his company. He's very much into nature and taking pictures. So he's a friend of his has had a cottage up in where Sheffield way, up in the Dales up that way. So his friend said to him, well, why don't you use my cottage, and then you can walk out of all the different paths and take your pictures. And he says, it's set in not far from a village called Craven. So he said, oh, okay. So this is how the story starts. So he drives up there on a Friday night. So he's gone all Friday daytime. So he's found the cottage, got in there, put his luggage in, looked around for, this is really lovely. Sort of gone out for a little walk. So on the Friday, he's come back, he's got something to eat. So he thought, right, I'll go out for pictures and all of that around the local area. So off he went on the Saturday. So he'd been out all day, come back, thought, I know, I'll go to the local village and have a nice local pint. So he's got his sat nav, found the local village, very basic sat nav. So down the road, round the corner, come to T junction, turn left. Right opposite is a bakery and a newspaper shop, and to the left of him is a car park. So he's turned left, gone up to a different stage in the car park, parked in there, walked down, walked onto the high street. Thought, well, this is very pretty. Gone into the pub, shut the door behind him, and right as he walked in, there was a barman right at the very end of the bar, with his arms folded, just looking at him. Never acknowledged him, nothing. Just sort of, he's like, evening. And he just kept looking, like he's looking straight through him. And he's like, well, that's okay, whatever. So he's walked up to the bar, said to the barman, oh, I'll have a pint of that. So the barman's pulled the pint, an old pulling pint way. So my mate's give him £5 note. So he's opened the wooden drawer, put the £5 note and shut it. So he's thinking, well, was there no change? So, okay, I'll let that go. So he went and sat down and started looking around the pub, thinking it's very dimly lit. And he described it as very dim. It was sort of yellowy in colour inside. But the barman was still stood up with his arms folded, looking straight at the front door. And he's thinking, this is very odd. He's not, acknowledged me coming in the room or anything. So he's drinking his pint away, reading his paper, thinking, oh, I know, I'll go and put some music on. So he's gone over up the next level, gone to the jukebox, and the barman said, don't work. Oh, okay. So he's gone to the fruit machine, don't work. So he thinks, oh, okay then. So he goes back, sups up his pint, thinks, right, I'll have one more, and then I'll head back to the cottage. So he goes up to the barman, still in the same place, looking at the door. So he goes back up to the bar, the barman pours him a pint, he gives him a £5 note. The barman opens the wooden till, puts it in, and as the till shuts, he hears the front door of the pub open and shut. He thinks, oh, thank God for that, someone else has come in. As he's turned around with his pipe, bearing in mind the barman's still looking straight down the bar, straight at the front door, he's turned around and seen about 25 people sitting in the chairs. Like they're like, he described it as like horseshoe-shaped chairs around the pub. He's thinking, how could they have got in here that quick? So as he's got sort of closer, he noticed they got drinks on the table. He's thinking, how can this be? This is creepy. And the drinks were all sort of half at different levels, like they'd all been drinking. And he's like, what is this? So he's very much into period costumes and things like that. He's very knowledgeable on history. So he's drinking his pint, reading his paper. Nobody's saying anything. They're all just sitting there looking at the barman, and the drinks are all the same level. And he's thinking, this is creepy. So he's looked over his sort of paper and round, and he can only describe them as being in like 1930s type attire, dressed. Ladies in like what he would describe 1930s men had sort of waistcoats and the flat caps and really looked like miners, that type of thing. So he thinks, oh, no, enough's enough now. And this is totally creepy because nobody's saying anything. They're just still looking at the barman, standing down, looking at the door. So he thinks, I'll go and have a wee and then I'll go. So he's gone along the bar, past the barman, up some steps, opened it because the toilet was outside. As he's opened the back door of the pub, he's like, his dog was going mad at him. So he thought, you know what? That's enough for me. So he shut the door, came back down the stairs. The barman's still there. He's come down the stairs. He's started to go, and the front door shut literally seconds in front of him. He thinks, well, that's not very nice, is it? Didn't even hold the door open for me. So he's rushed out, and they're gone. There's no one there. And he's thinking, he's looking up and down the high street, thinking, how could you lose 25 people that quick? So he's gone back to his car, sort of sped all the way home to the cottage, laying there all night, thinking, what on earth was that? What had happened? What? And he couldn't get his head around. He said, I know, in the morning I'm going to get up, I'm going to do the same route and go back there again. So he wakes up in the morning, has a bit of breakfast, thinks, he's trying to process this in his head. So, right, get back in the car. So he gets back in the car, goes all the way down, comes to the T-junction. Sure enough, there's the bakers and the newspaper. There's the pub on the left. So he's turned in the car park, parked on the same level, walked down to the pub, and it's all boarded up. And he's like, what? So he's gone back to his sat nav again, checked the area. Yeah, it says you are here. So next door he could hear a bit of music and a tap, tap, tap. So he thought, well, I'll go and ask. So he's gone, there's like a mechanical workshop next door. So the bloke's tapping and banging and doing all that type of stuff. And he's gone in there and said, excuse me, mate. I said, yeah. He said, oh, how long's the pub been shut next door? Oh, he said, 80, 90 years. He said, why? Why do you need to know? He said, oh, I'm just doing a local history check and, just interested in the pub type thing. He said, well, you don't need to know. And he got back in his car and drove back. He drove all the way home thinking, this can't, what could have happened? So anyway, he goes home, months and months and months pass, and it's going round in his head. So he says to his brother, he explains this to his brother. He said, I can't explain it to anybody else because they think I'm going to be mad because people are not going to believe what's happened to me. And he's a very, very truthful person. He would never lie, wouldn't make it up. So anyway, his brother says, you must have gone to the wrong village. Said, no. So it's nearly a year on now by the time his brother said, I'll tell you what, I'll go back there with my girlfriend and I'll see if it's boarded up. So his brother uses the sat nav, goes to the same, there it is, parks in the same car park, walks down, goes into the pub. It's like a lively village pub and people laughing and joking and music going. He's thinking, how can this be? What's going on here? So he's gone up to the bar, I'll have a cocktail and she'll have a beer, whatever that is. So they paid for it, got the change, put it in his pocket. And they sat there and had a couple more and thought, well, this is nothing like he described it. Pub was very bright and, lots of going on and happy people. And he's thinking, and he said to the barman, oh, how long you been open? He said, oh, about a year or so now, because it was boarded up for about 80 odd years, 85 years. And then we took it over and made it into a modern day pub. And he's like, well, okay. So that would make sense. So he's gone back to the cottage where my friend stayed with his girlfriend, got ready for bed, put his change on the bedside cabinet, and in the change was a 1930s penny.
Man.
So he's like, and he described him as being in a 1930s type attire. Mm-hmm. So how can you get a 1930s penny in his change? So he thought, well, this is beyond belief. So he then contacts me because he knew I was doing the parapsychology course. And he said to me, can I explain something to you? And it's going to sound the maddest thing. I said, no, no, tell me. Anyway, he went through the story like I just told you. And I said, oh, what? Why don't we go back? He said, no, 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 no. I am never going back there again. So, okay. So I said, well, better if I do a history check, start checking up on local areas, blah, blah, blah. So I did a history check, and it was a village called Craven in Heifer, which is the heifer, the cow, because it came from that area. So I contacted a few people, and there wasn't very much about the village. Only that it was belonged to a mine that was about 3 or 4 miles away. It was a mining village. You know, the pub was the centre of the location where everybody would meet after a shift and that type of, just a general good, great place. Anyway, I couldn't get any further, so I thought, I know, I'll call the local church because they always had records. So I phoned the local church and said to him, "Oh, I'm doing a local study as a university student on the pub in the Craven and Heifer." He said, "You don't need to know anything about the pub." And I'm like, "Sorry?" He said, "You don't need to know anything about the pub." I'm like, "Well, I'm just doing it as a history," and put the phone down. I thought, well, okay, that's a bit odd, but never mind. So I was digging and digging and digging, months and months looking. It's got to be something. And I stumbled across it in archives of 1930 in the village of Craven. The shift had finished in the 1930s. The group of miners met their wives walking down the road to the pub, and the mine opened up and swallowed them all, killed them all. 25 people were lost. And I'm like,
Oh,
I can't believe what I'm actually. And I showed him, and he went, because they showed the pictures of what they would have looked like in the old fashioned picture. He said, "That's it. That's exactly what they look like. Exactly what they look like sitting in the pub." And that
oh,
was from
wow.
1930. They'd lost one of the mine holes, sinkhole had opened up, and these people were killed. 25 sadly lost their lives that day.
That is wild.
And that's the story of the time travel. So I had that story. And when I was doing parapsychology, they had a lady come from NASA to do a talk on how the Americans were practicing with time travel during the Second World War. Because it's a very famous experiment called the Philadelphia experiment, where they moved the battleship through time. I don't know if you've heard of that one.
Mhm.
So I thought, do I tell her? Do I tell her the story? What do I, am I going to sound crazy? So I thought, no, you know what? I'm going to tell her. So at the end, she said, "Is there any questions? Anybody had this type of phenomenon happen to them?" And I said, "Can I just briefly go through a story?" She said, "Of course you can." And everybody was there. There's about 25 people. So I told her the story. She went, "Oh, right. Yeah, yeah, that's not uncommon." And I'm like, well, what's not uncommon? She said, "What you've got to understand is we can live parallel lifelines. And as we travel across, we can either go forward in time or go back in time, or they come forward to our time and etc." She said, "What happened is," and I'll explain exactly what happened. She said, "Your friend, and the time he walked in, he went back in time. So he actually time traveled. Although he didn't know it, he'd gone into the pub but traveled back. So that could have been a residual energy where the pub was playing it back over again." So he said, and she was going on about the story. She said, when he went to the back door to go to the toilet, the dog barking was a sign to get out before it changed. And then as he came out that door, obviously it changed back because it was all boarded up and the 25 people had disappeared. And she said that could explain a phenomena where people go missing and they're never found again because they never see the warning sign to get out when time comes back to reality.
Whoa.
How mind blowing is that? And
Man,
I was
that's made
just
me go
like,
cold. Yeah.
she said, it's not uncommon for this to happen. She said,
Wow.
so, but it's knowing the warning signs, which was the dog barking, forcing your mate out of the pub, was the warning
Hmm.
sign to get out. And I said, what happens if he hadn't have took the warning sign? She said, we don't know because we've never seen anybody come back. But could it be that he would have stayed in the 1930s and never have got back because the portal would have never opened again? Could this explain why people go missing and they're never found again because there's a warning sign and they never got out as the lifelines parted?
Hmm.
So we don't know. It's an
That's
unanswered question.
incredible.
But
That
that's
is
my friend that
incredible.
actually time traveled. We say time travel, something happened to him in that time that's unexplainable. whether she seems to think that he travelled back in time because of the way he described the dress, the dimly lit pub. The barman was never really communicative with him, just looked at the same place. She said it would say to me that you crossed over, but it was a residual energy happening. And as you crossed over, you went into that time. So hence why you didn't
Wow.
see the people come in. You didn't see the drinks move because they were already there, but you've just entered at the right time.
That is
Amazing.
incredible, man.
Amazing story. And he, I often say to him, would you ever go back? He said, no. He said, I had the warning sign. That scared me. And I know where I'm not welcome to go back. So I
Yeah.
will never ever go back. So I said, I'll go back with him. And we'll do like history searching around the area to, get more information. He said, to be honest with you, Paul, I will never go back. That scared me that much. I don't know what I saw. I know what I saw, but I don't know what I saw. And I will never ever go back. I will never tempt fate again. And he never did go back.
Wow. Yeah.
And he never talks about it anymore. And I said to him, oh, you
Really?
remember that? He said, yeah, I remember that. And that's it where it stops.
Wow. Yeah, because I mean, if
And
he'd not listened to that, I mean, who knows what would have happened if he'd not listened to that, the dog,
would he have,
and
yeah,
could he have been?
would he have gone
Oh,
missing?
that's
Would he have gone
incredible.
missing and never been found again?
And
Because
so
she
many
said,
people do seemingly go missing and vanish, and it's unexplainable.
this is the thing she was saying, where the Americans are very much into the Bermuda Triangle.
Hmm.
Where do things go there? She said, is that the same thing?
The missing
Is there a
411.
part? Yeah. Where did they go? Is it a time slip they crossed over but didn't manage to get back again? She said, who knows where these people or these ships and these planes disappear to? People have a lot of say it's the sea that causes it, various atmospheric pressures or, phenomenons do it. But, having had that, heard that story from her, and then you look at the way she explained it, you think, well, you know what, that could well be something towards the Bermuda Triangle. Whether it's true, I don't know. But his experience is very, very real. And he just doesn't talk about it anymore. He said, no,
Hmm.
no, yeah, I remember it. And that's all he says, I remember it.
Wow. There's a
Mine,
street in, I think it's in
Liverpool,
Liverpool. Yeah, yeah, that's it.
Bond Street,
That's
Bond
it.
Street, Brick Street, yeah,
And
yeah,
and
very
people
famous.
report that happening a lot. There's quite a common report from that street.
Yeah, people go back in time because I've read I'm sort of a bit of a person that does a massive amounts of research. I like and time travel and time slips and things are things that I'm really passionate about learning about. And I went up to London with Jenny to 14 times. They were doing a woman was talking about time slips, time travel, time anomalies, and I thought I've got to go and listen to her. And she was talking about that, how people walk up that street, and then there's a horse and carriage that come past them, and they're on cobblestones, and then they walk a few yards more, and it's back to normal. How mind blowing is that? How can that be in the modern day now that
Hmm.
that still happens? What's happened in that street that causes that to happen? Is what
Yeah.
I would like to know. Nobody really knows.
Oh, is there some kind of portal there that, for whatever reason, at the right time, the right moment, the right amount of energy? That's
Something.
incredible. It's
Something
incredible,
could
man.
be stored in the buildings across the street from each other,
Hmm.
because, residual energy can be stored into brick, into concrete, into lime, into floor. All these things can add, like you say, atmospheric pressures, atmospheric, the right temperature, whatever. You suddenly end up walking through, going back to the Victorian times or whenever you, and these people describe as, horses and carts go past cobblestones and then they walk along and look back again thinking, what? And it's back to normal time. So, it's split second. They say it is literally seconds that
Hmm.
they see it and then it's gone. They're back
Hmm.
into what we say normal time, but back into
Yeah.
reality.
Yeah. The time we
So,
should be in, that we think we should be in.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
incredible, man. Quite scary as well that you could probably walk into this portal, this time warp, whatever you want to call it, and be lost forever. That's kind of
yeah,
scary. And do you go on
yeah.
living in that time period or what? What happens to you, man?
We don't know, do we? Because nobody's ever come back to say,
Yeah.
I know where I've been for the last 50 years, but it's not here because
Yeah.
nobody's ever come back to say that. So we can only speculate, can't we? You know, and like she said, these people disappear and never ever found. But is
Hmm.
it that they just didn't get out at that time? do they survive living in that day and age?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's all these questions that sort of trigger you thinking,
Absolutely.
could you survive in the 1930s even though you're a modern day dress? Because
Probably not.
he must have looked different to them.
Yeah.
Or was he not there when they were there? They didn't see him.
Yeah. Which is even kind of scary because then he's like nowhere. He's sort of like trapped in the
Yeah,
void or whatever. That is
yeah.
wild, man.
When you think about it like that, and he's such a genuine, lovely guy. I
Hmm.
haven't spoken to him for a while, but and he always looks at me and says, "Yeah, I remember." And
Hmm.
that's the end of the. He will not do it again.
Yeah.
So it
Wow.
frightened him that much that
And
he would
and
never do.
the pushback that you got from the locals that are saying you don't need to know about that might be something to do with the fact that it could be like a generational thing that could have been like their family that lost
Yeah,
their life in that moment,
absolutely.
and it's quite a distressing thing.
Yeah, sometimes you've got to respect that because people have lost families, like you say, the nan, the mum, the dad, the granddad, and it's a tragic. Anybody loses their life in that way is a very tragic end,
Hmm.
you know, for a passing. And I sort of knew that I would probably be up against it, so there's no good pursuing it and causing a problem. So I
Hmm.
thought, you know what, I'll just keep searching and searching until I find the answer, and not, you know, be disrespectful to anybody that's lost a grandfather, a nan, a granddad, whatever, children. I won't be disrespectful because that's not how I am. So
Hmm.
I thought if I do it through searching, then I'm not going to tread on anybody's toes. It's just that we came up with the answer, and I gave him the answer, and
Hmm.
never really went from there. And I said to him, this is the most amazing story. He said, the story that I lived and would never go back.
Hmm.
So it did quite affect him what had happened to him, but it's the most
Wow.
amazing story, really.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, Andy was right when he said that I was going to be blown away by it.
It just even now when I recall it, it just blows my mind to have a 1930s penny in the change
Yeah,
well over a year beyond. How can that be? How
that's
can you have a
incredible.
1930s penny?
But it is
It's
amazing. It's so amazing that this world, like your average person, maybe not interested in this stuff, or maybe interested in the paranormal a little bit. But when you really look into it, man, this world is incredible. There's so much more, and
oh
it's magical. It's scary a little bit as well, but it is
yeah,
amazing.
I think there's so much more that we don't know about.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Maybe one day we will find out. Maybe one day we won't find out.
Yeah.
But I think there's things out there that would probably just completely blow us away if we were to see it.
Hmm.
Maybe the plan is that we don't see it, we just see snippets through our life of
Hmm.
what is truly there. They say when you're a child, you're very much open to the spirit world, because you've got both sides of your brain are open and you're very much in touch with the spirit world, where children see pretend friends and they play like Jen. Jen's got a story about a spirit child that was lived with her, you know, and as we're growing up, I think we're conditioned to switch off the left part of our brain, which is where your your communication is, your telepathic communication link is. And we're told that's left, that's right, that's black, that's white, and we're conditioned. We tend to turn that side off.
Hmm.
Where psychic and mediums switch it on because that's where the communication of the brain is. And people that have that part of the brain switched on is picking up these things, this journey, because we're all on a journey. Let's face it, we're on a journey to somewhere.
Hmm.
We don't know where, but Spirit have the plan for us, and we'll reach the end of our journey when the time is right. But it's that keeping that switch, and this is what Jen showed me how to switch it on and keep it switched on, so I can be open to messages coming through.
Hmm.
You know, and when I go into a paranormal investigation, I go into a haunted location very much of a skeptic. I want the house to prove to me it's haunted. I don't need to prove it's haunted because I could say, oh, yeah, your house is haunted. And the power of suggestion is very strong. You say something, oh, that's really haunted. They go, oh, yeah, yeah, it is, isn't it? But
Hmm.
you just suggested that thing. So in the back of their subconscious mind, they're thinking, oh, yeah, that does look spooky. But I go into an investigation very much of a skeptic, saying to the house, and when I go into the house, I close my eyes and say, I'm here. You've asked me to come here. Prove to me that you're haunted. And it does. 9 times out of 10, I'll suddenly see a man or a woman, or I'll see a scene inside the house where I can describe it. And I've done it like when I've given messages to people. I was saying, your house looked like this and it had this, this, and this. And they're like, how do you know that? I lived there as a child. And
Mhm.
they show me around. It's like I go there and it's like they turn me around, show me around the room. Like I'm looking in the room and I can describe what was where. And they obviously do it for a reason. I think so the people know that you're not like untrue or scammer or whatever, because they give me that evidence that only they would know. I wouldn't. I'm just a person that communicates for them,
Mhm.
through to the other people. And yeah, I've had a very interesting journey in the paranormal.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Very interesting.
You said you'd had
Um,
some scary moments. What can you give us some of them, or
yeah,
any that
I,
stand out?
I did with a group. There was a very haunted house down the A3 towards London, and we were asked to go in there late one night because the builders were renovating the house. What it was originally was a nightclub, and somebody bought it to renovate it back to a house. Beautiful, fantastic house. I think it dated back to the 16th, 17th century, so it was a very well established house. So the builders were going in there, but when they were in there, they were asked to go in sort of late evening and work through the night and come out during the day because there was people around. But they wouldn't stay in there. Tools would go missing. They'd hear screaming, shouting. So they refused to go back in there. So the owner contacted us with a paranormal group and said, "Will you go in? Because something's not right in the house." And we went in late one night. So we went in there, established ourselves as a base room. So all our equipment set out all around, static cameras in by doorways, and we're calling out like you do, is there any spirit here? Were you willing to communicate with us? We come the utmost respect and blah, all that type of stuff. And then we could hear footsteps upstairs, quite not heavy footsteps, but footsteps. And I was then the only male on the investigation team, so it was four females and myself. They said, "Well, you're brave. Can you go upstairs and have a look?" And I'm like, "What, on my own?" So, okay. So I reluctantly went up the stairs. So I'm walking around, and it's a massive long landing with different rooms off bedrooms. But one bedroom had two doors. So you can go in one door, walk through the room, and come out the other door, back into the corridor. So I'm up there saying, "Spirit, are you here? Can you make a noise?" And it was deadly quiet. I'm thinking, I was saying to them, "No one up here." And and I started to walk to have a look along the rooms, and I could hear footsteps behind me. And I sort of turned around and thought, okay, maybe it's the floorboards. So I'm on my hands and knees pressing on the floorboards, trying to make out that if it's echoing below. I said, "Can you hear my footsteps down there?" They said, "No, we can hear like what sounds like two sets of footsteps, yours and then something split second behind you." Let's go, "Oh, okay." So I walked around all the bedrooms, nobody's there, and the footsteps are following me all around this house. I'm thinking, okay, so I know, and then I sensed something behind me. And I thought, okay. So at that time, I had a very basic mobile phone, so you couldn't really take selfies. So when I looked to the floor, I thought, okay, there's a lot of concrete dust on the floor. So what I'll do is I'll sweep it around and then I'll walk through the dust and see if I can pick anything up through the dust. And some investigators use flour, they use various different things. So I said, "Spirit, if you're really with me and you're behind me, can you walk with me and walk behind me?" So I walked through the door. Sure enough, I can hear this like little footsteps behind me. And I'm thinking, okay, I've come out the door, stopped, said, "Thank you, Spirit, if that was you walking behind me." And I walked back in and you could see my footsteps and what looked like a size 5 lady's footstep behind me, in behind a shoe step behind me. So where I
Whoa.
stepped was a little foot. And I said to them, "You've got to come up here. You've got to see this." And they all come rushing up and took pictures. I never took pictures, but the other group did. And sure enough, you could see my footprint and then what looked like a lady's sort of size 5 foot print behind, like the heel and the sort of the nose part of the shoe behind me. So it was there. And then we did investigation and we did the research, and it turns out it was a double murder there. So it was a nightclub, a very famous nightclub, and it was obviously dealing with bits and pieces that obviously, nightclubs are very old age. And there was somebody run in there, it was a disgruntled customer, shot a lady upstairs. She was upstairs, and then killed a man behind the bar with a shotgun, and then he was shot himself and taken outside. So we obviously got together as a group, and then we moved them on. And then the builders went back in a few weeks later and said it's like a different house. It's completely different. Why does it feel so different? And it is because, we had that interaction with the spirit. I think they wanted to go, didn't know how to go. They died very sadly traumatically, and sometimes the spirit die in a traumatic circumstances. They don't go over. They're stuck there and just need their bit of help. So that was a really interesting one. So the other one I had was an asylum. So we were told to go in there. Could we go in there and have a look around and sort of report back to them what was going on? Because lots of locals said they'd seen people moving around in there, but it's a very derelict asylum. So again, late one night we go in there. So we walk in, and it's probably the most creepiest place. I'm not really scared. I'm a bit apprehensive, but I'm not really scared. I want to know. So I've been drawn there. I've been on. So as you go in, went in through a couple of doors, and the reception was there, like a big desk, and the books were still open on the desk, just like everybody had left, just literally that minute. So to my right was it was like a bit of a star shape. So off the main reception was wings in front of you. So it's like 5 wings. So to the right of me, as we're bringing the equipment in, I could hear someone say something. And I'm like, oh, maybe it's an echo. So I'm sort of standing going, hello. And it was deadly silent. I'm thinking, oh, okay. Maybe it's one of the women outside that I'd heard. So did anybody say anything? Oh, no. So I've gone in there, and they've gone back out to the car. And I heard, and as I'm looking down this dark corridor, I can see a door slowly moving. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe there's broken windows down there, and there's a draft that's making the door move. But all the doors were open. So I'm thinking, do I or don't I? Because the first rule of investigation, don't go anywhere on your own, just in case something happens. So there I am, breaking the first rule, investigate. I've got to find out why this door is moving. So I've wandered down this corridor, and they're like, I've gone down there, and they're still outside, sort of getting equipment in. And I've gone into this room where the door is a different state of close to any other the doors. So I thought, it's got to be this one. Is about the right distance down the corridor. So I've gone into the room. And as I've gone into the room, there's a metal bed, and there's a toilet to the right in a separate room. And the windows were all intact. There was no broken windows or anything broken like that. So as I sort of turned around, the door slammed, bang, behind me, and I thought, oh no, oh, now I've broken the golden rule now. So I've gone to the door, I can't open the door. And as I'm standing there, I'm thinking, okay, so with spirit or with, negative spirits, the more fear you show, the more energy they become. So it's about not showing any fear. But it's very difficult in that situation not to show any fear, because it's a natural fight or flight mode. Your body's into that mode. So I'm thinking, okay, and I'm saying to them, I know you're here, and I could sense someone in the room. And I had felt like a breeze come brushing past me, like someone's running around me, and I could hear this breeze going round and round and round. And I did. I thought,
Man.
now I'm in trouble. I looked at my phone and no signal. I thought, now I'm in trouble, because now I'm in a room, I can't get the door open, and I'm on my own. The worst, I broke the rules, basically. I think it was to teach me a lesson, to be honest. So I'm standing here thinking, and I'm not getting panicky, but I know I'm starting to get a bit. So I'm thinking, right, don't be scared. So I said, right, okay, I know you're here. Real stern voice. Come on in, do the best you can do. Show me what you can do, because I am not scared of you. I'm telling you that now. I'm not scared of you. And I could hear it sort of getting agitated. So the bed moved, knocking the toilet. I said, well, come on then, get on with it. Waiting for it to get pushed, scratched, bitten. And the door opened. And I shot out the door and never looked back. I run up to the reception. They went, where you been? I said, oh, just having a quick look down there. I said, oh, you shouldn't have gone on your own. I said, no, it's fine. It's all right. And that was my scariest moment. And that taught me really a lesson. They say, don't venture out on your own. And it's like, lots of people that do paranormal investigations on their own do, sadly, get killed. You're in a 3-story building where they've taken a lift shaft out. And this is true to all stories. When you're in a paranormal location and you've got a torch and something moves or you hear a noise, you're looking down the end of the torch. What's the only thing that you're not doing is looking down at the floor. And they walk along and they've gone down a 30-foot lift shaft
Hmm.
because they're looking so concentrated on the torch. And that's why if you go with two or three of you, one's looking at the floor, one's looking forward, one's watching your back. So you know that you're in a safe realm. If you go to someone say, watch out, there's a hole here or there's glass here. But if
Hmm.
you're on your own, you're so concentrated in beaming that torch because you might have seen a shadow go across and think, I've got to get down, I've got to get down there. And there's incidents where people have disappeared down a lift shaft and then joined what they're searching on the other side because they've gone 30 feet straight down. Nobody's found them for days.
Yeah.
So I learned my lesson that day. I've really, that was the most scariest moment I've had on my own, you
You're
know.
braver than me, sir. That's for sure. You're braver than
But
me.
I just wanted to know,
I would have gone full panic.
and it, and it's very much, you know, and we did the investigation, and it was like it's very creepy because like the dining room table was still laid out with plates and chairs, the beds were all still made slightly over with the covers slightly bent, but the bed in the room where I was just like a metal sprung bed, empty. There was nothing on it, no mattress or anything like that. It was just a bare. And I'm sort of looking at the glass, thinking, oh, maybe it's the breeze. The glass was all intact, so there was no strong breeze through the building
Mm.
to have moved the door. It was just an indication of come and find me because I'm waiting.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I did it. I broke the golden rule.
You learned the lesson. That's the main
I
thing.
did. I did. And now I go into basements on my own, but I know people are in voice range of me. I've been into various places where we went to one in here's a story. It's a pub called the Lamb Pub. So there's myself, Jenny, and a few other team members and some guests. So it's a very active pub. It's a highwayman's pub and it was a coach stop. And so it's very good, brilliant history. It was called the Lamb. So we're in there this night and the strangest thing happened. We were in downstairs at the front room and the other group were upstairs in the bedroom. So so you came down the stairs and it was like an old rickety door you opened to come out into the hallway. So we're all in the lounge at the front of the building. There's nobody in down the lounge or anywhere like that, and they were upstairs in the bedroom. So my friend who sadly passed away, he was sitting on the chair looking down the stairs, and he was a psychic medium, very very good, very very good. And he looked down the stairs, and someone opened the door, looked up the stairs, looked at him, then shut the door. And he's like, well, he's candid people. Okay. So he's come downstairs, come to us. He said, any of you been out? We went, no. He said, yeah. And someone just came out and looked upstairs. I said, no, we've all been here. He said, I'm telling you, I've just seen a man look up the stairs, open the door, look up the stairs and shut the door. He said, no, he can't have done because we're all here. So anyway, this went on and they'd been there previous before and had the same thing happen again. A man had come in, but they thought it was someone walking along the road, needed a wee, come in and used the toilet and gone back out. But the pub was completely locked, so nobody could have got in and nobody could have got out. So he's saying to me, I know what I saw downstairs. He said it, and he described this person quite darkly dressed, like a bit of a hat, sort of a bit scruffy looking. So anyway, we swapped over. They came downstairs, we went upstairs. So we're all sitting there. There's myself, Jenny, one of our friends, another investigator of ours called Dora, and a few guests sitting there, women. So we were sitting in the room and we were doing table tipping, when you put your divination on the table, and the table was going mad. It was rocking backwards and forwards, up on one end. It was twisting. It was just completely mad. And it was doing it for about 5 minutes, 6 minutes. And then suddenly just went bang, just stopped. And then you knew something was going to happen because the room was in the room went started to go dark. And I thought because off the main room was a toilet shower block. So I went in there and sat there with another lady, and we were looking in the room, and it got darker and darker and darker in the room, and it was as still as the quiet. So you knew something was building. And then we sat there, and then Jenny went, "Oh, are you standing up?" I went, "No, I'm sat down." And without sort of obviously swearing, she's gone, "Oh my God, look at the mirror." And there was a man standing in the mirror. Jen had saw it, and then all the women saw it, screamed. I went to run to see what was going on, and I felt two hands on my shoulder hold me down on the floor. And I'm like, get off me. And I run because it's a very low doorway. And the woman that was in the room with me, she was running. So we're fighting to get out of the door. And literally, this man was standing in the mirror, and everybody in the room saw him standing there.
Wow.
So anyway, there was screams and table and people diving over beds, falling over chairs, and you can imagine the sheer panic. Because Jen always used to say, "Well, nothing ever happens to me. It's always all quiet when I go." So I was glad in one respect that she did fret the life out of me. So then when we sort of calmed down, went and had a drink, we said, "Oh, we got to go back up there." Because on the ghost hunt was two ladies that do mirror scrying, where they look into the mirror.
Hmm.
So we said, would you mind trying it? And they're brilliant. They're absolutely brilliant, this mirror scrying. And I have never, in all the years that I've been in the paranormal, I have never seen anything like this. So she's got a little red light under her face. So she's looking in the mirror where we saw the man. Okay. So we're all sitting there looking at her. She hadn't said anything. She's got her eyes fixed and we're saying, Spirit, come in? Can you join us? Can you show yourself? And without a word of a lie, Tommy, you could see the sideburns coming on her face, like a mustache, like two big long sideburns. And we said, Can you come in the room? Literally, her head was straight, but her eyes looked at everybody individually in the room. But her head was straight. It was the creepiest thing I've ever seen. Everybody's going, "Oh, I don't like this. This is not right." Literally, her face was still there, but the eyes were looking at everybody individually in the room.
Whoa.
And her friend said to her, "Well, you need to come back now. Come back." And she sort of went, "Right, okay, what? So what was it like? What had happened?" And we told her, and her friend said, "I'm going to go and see if I can get him to come through again." And we were all sitting there again, weren't we, Jen, watching her. And sure enough, the first thing you see is like her face change, and then the sideburns and this moustache and these big long sideburns appear again in the mirror. You're thinking, she's changing. Her face is changing, and it's changing to like a man's face. And we're saying, do you think you could come in the room? And again, it looked at each one of us individually with a really creepy stare. And then her friend said, "That's enough. I need to get her out," because she could see in the mirror something was changing. They said, "You need to snap out," and brought her out of it. And she
Wow.
said, "What happened? What happened then? What went on?" And they told her, but that was the creepiest thing that ever
That is
we saw
wild.
through mirror scrying. Yeah. So, to all your listeners, obviously as long as you're in control of what you're doing and you know what to do and how to get out when things do get a little bit hairy, mirror scrying is another way of divination, is it? It's another way of
Yeah.
communication. But we saw her face change. So it's just a mind blowing situation in the pub.
Yeah,
From
man.
seeing the man in the mirror to seeing the faces changing, this man looking around the room. You're thinking, what else, in this pub? It was a tremendous pub. We had a great night there.
Wow.
Very, very haunted.
Yeah.
Well, my first, I don't know if you want to hear about my first apparition I saw.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah. You're not boring you, am I?
No, not at all, brother. Not at all. I could listen to you all night.
So we go to a place in Guildford or in an area called Walberston in near Guildford to a very famous veterinary college. But it's a house that dates back to about 1700s, 1600s. And it was built by a wealthy banker in London as a residence for Surrey for their holidays. So they would come out to Surrey because in them days they obviously didn't travel abroad. They travelled out into the countryside. You had this house built. So it's a big house, but it's square inside. It's the most strangest house you've ever seen, but it was square inside. So we were asked to go there. Would we do a paranormal event there and take some of the people? Because now it's a university. At that time, it was a college. So a lot of the office staff, because it's an office now, so a lot of the office staff would ask, they heard things and bumps, all sorts of things. They said, "Can you get a group to come in and have a look?" And we'd like to go in as guests. So they contacted us. So in we went. And the only night they could do was Halloween night, believe it or not. So,
Oh,
the atmosphere is already
yeah.
electrified. So we've gone to the door. The caretaker's come out. He's unlocked the door and said, "You can go in, but we're not going in because the dog won't enter the house and I won't go in. I'll open the door and I'll be back later to lock the door, but you're on your own." So we're like, "Okay, how haunted can it be?" So we walked in there. So just have a quick drink of water, you know. So we walked in there. So we walked into like the foyer type thing, and in front of you is the stairs that go up, and then to your left, beautiful staircase, you know, phenomenal. Like you would expect to see someone come walking down a big dress, and that type of staircase. It's just absolutely fun, and all the wood paneling on the walls is all original. I think it's 14th century, that house.
Oh
Well, it
wow.
might be 14th century. So, and all the original wood paneling, all the original roofs, everything's original, but it's modernized because it's an office. So we're standing there, we're bringing all the equipment in, we put a few Halloween bits and pieces around to make it the atmosphere for them coming in. And we heard what sounded like someone running down the stairs. We all looked up at the stairs and there was nobody there, thinking, we all looked at each other and went, what was that? So I walked upstairs, had a look, couldn't see anything, came back down again. We're setting up again. Then we could hear a woman humming a song. We're like, what? But there's nobody here. So I've gone up the stairs, walked around, couldn't find a woman singing, come back down, started to do it again. Sure enough, there's a voice again, like a woman singing. We're like, oh my God, this is really active. So we're listening out. So we've gone, set out the base room. So all the people had come and just explained, and you know, a lot of them knew about the history of the house, so they were sort of semi good. So off we went. So it was on 3 floors. So the foyer, first floor, and second floor. So it's 3 floors. So on each floor we had different experiments. So a group of people, we were given like 6 women each or wherever, and you'd go to the ground floor, you would go to the middle floor, someone else would go to the top floor. So you're always giving them different ways of divination, different ways of communication. So we started off on the ground floor. We had cat balls, flashing illuminated balls going, tapping, knocking, doors opening and shutting, and we could smell what smelled like perfume in the room, and just phenomenal activity. And then it was our turn to go to the second floor. So we'd all had a break, recharged, gone to the second floor. So if you imagine going up to the second floor, it's got a long hallway, but it's square. So you've got corridors in a square shape. So they got glass in all the 4 corridors. So you can look across to that corridor and stand there. You can look across to the opposite one. So you got 4 glass windows, glass door there and a glass door there. So I've took them up to the floor. There's only 6 of us, 6 women and myself. So we're walking around. So 3 of the corridors were quite warm. And this one corridor was really cold, icily cold. And I thought, that's where we need to be. So we walked in, and the woman saying, "Oh, why can't we stand in the wall one?" I said, "No, because I think this is what's going to happen." Bearing in mind they hadn't been on anything like that before, but they'd heard knocks and taps. So we're standing there, and I had this sudden drop in my stomach, like a real dread, like, oh, what's coming? Something's going to happen here. And I'm saying, "Spirit, if you're here, I know you're here because I can feel you. Can you show yourself?" And then they were sort of standing, oh, 3, 4, maybe 6 foot away from me, right on the corner of the building where you would turn to go down the next corridor. So they're looking at me, and I turned to look at the glass door, and there's a face pressed against the glass. You know, if you press your face against the glass. Oh, but split second before that, we saw a white flashing light opposite us. And I thought, well, who's up here taking pictures then? I said, hang on, we'll go round. So I walked round, couldn't find anybody, come back, said, Spirit, is that you that flashed the white light? Do it again. Sure enough, there was it was a piercing white blue light. And I thought, I know, he's here, something's here. So, and I said, Spirit, can you show yourself? And as I looked, there was this face pressing against the glass door, which was literally 3 foot away from me. And I'm thinking, I know there's nobody up here. And I'm thinking, there's a face in the glass. And by this time, the women hadn't seen it. So I looked again, he'd gone. I said, Spirit, can you show yourself in the corridor next to me? And then I heard this, and I looked round, and he was standing there looking at me. They saw him. So one lady had passed out and fainted. I'm looking at him, he's looking at me, and I'm thinking, am I really seeing a ghost here? And then the other women really saw it. We all saw it exactly the same time. One woman passed out on the floor, the others run out the fire exit. So the alarms are going off. And as I looked back again to get a second take on him, he'd gone. But I remembered what he looked like. So all the alarms are going off. So everybody's had to exit the building, that normal sort of thing. So we've reset the alarm. But what we did was singled out all the women, woke the women up that had passed out, and they're all standing outside, which is a funny thing, having a cigarette, and like their hands are shaking like that. So we separated them all away from each other so they can't talk to each other. So the lady in charge went around and got all the individual statements from the 6 women. And even the woman that had actually passed out on the floor, she remembered. And they all described this man. She said, we didn't see him in the glass, but we saw him standing next to Paul. And he was dressed in a very tweed type suit, very pointed sort of chin and bit of a moustache with the bits hanging down here. A very well kept gentleman. His hair was very smooth. And that's exactly the person I saw. And I looked at him and he looked at me. I don't know whether he saw me, but I saw him. I literally saw him and thought, oh my God, he's in here with us. Of course, then the mayhem happened. And so we sort of went back out and sort of everybody calmed down, reset it. So we started. So they had a cup of tea and his women had had a couple of fags by the time they come back in. So the nerves are settled down and they're saying to me, why didn't you run? We saw he was standing next to you. Why didn't you run? I said, because I didn't believe what I was seeing. I couldn't believe that he would actually come into this corridor with us. So we went up onto the 3rd floor where we had laser grids printed all out over the walls. So we were up the stairs, through the room, down the corridor and into a room. And there was a room off of a room. So we put the laser grid in the outer room. So these women are saying, oh, I can't believe this. I don't know what I've seen. And can that be true? Could it have been someone? I said, but, and we sort of went through it. And I'm saying, Spirit, can you come in the room with us? We know you're here because we heard the door open and shut. And they're like, oh. So going from being sort of 7 people spread out to being 7 people huddled together in the middle, because suddenly when things start to happen, people get very close to you. There's no distance between you. And so we always made sure that the video cameras were turned off and the phones were off. And as we're looking into the room from the other room, there's a massive laser grid. We heard the door go clunk, like someone had shut the door. And as we're looking at the grid, we saw this black shadow walking along the grid. And they're going, oh my God, it's coming in. And I'm thinking, oh, okay. So, okay, thank you, Spirit. Can you come in the room with us? And it went really quiet. And I can only describe it as a beautiful orb, looking like a feather, came in the room, piercing white, blue orb. And we were all huddled and it was actually circling around us. So we actually watched it. All of us watched it go around and saying, has everybody got their phones off? And nobody had their phones on. Everything was in. And it went out the room and we're all looking. I'm saying, shh, 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 listen. And then you heard what sounded like a very faint footstep. And then we saw the shadow figure along the wall and heard the door clunk and disappeared. And that's all we saw that. And that was the most amazing journey I've had, to be honest. That was when I first saw my first apparition. I didn't believe what I was seeing because it looked so lifelike.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, can he see me? I know what I'm seeing, but can he see? And he was literally
that's
looking.
incredible.
Thinking, oh. And I'll never forget that. My first,
yeah.
I've seen shadow figures since, but I've never seen a full apparition, since.
Wow.
But I think you just got to be very lucky and very in the time or in the zone or whatever. But having 6 different people see it at exactly the same time I did, it's not as though I made it up, because she said to me, why didn't you run? Why did you just stay there? I said, because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. But the other women would say one woman passed out, the other runners out the far exit, and
that is incredible.
Like
yeah. As you're saying, it's hard to see these things. Like, we don't often see full-bodied apparitions.
No.
It's very rare, really. That's incredible, man.
So that was my first time of seeing them in, there. And I described it. It was just, when we Googled him, so he turns out his name was something Shaw was his name. Jeffrey Shaw, that's right. And he was the architect of the building. He built the building. And when we said to the caretaker, when he come down, he said, "Oh, how'd you get on?" We said, "Oh, we saw this." He said, "I've seen him on the stairs looking over." He said, "He's the architect that built the building." So that reaffirmed what we'd seen was right.
Yeah.
He said he wouldn't come in because he saw him looking over the stairs, which was enough to scare him and the dog. So he never would go back in. He said, "But what you've seen is what I've seen."
Incredible, man.
Mad, mad.
Wow.
And recently we went back there. It'd been close to the paranormal for about 11 years. We were the last only group to do it 11 years ago. So one of our friends who runs a paranormal group events, she managed to get the location. So we went back again. And I don't know how to describe it to your listeners or whatever. When I walked through the house, it was like I'd come home, like I hadn't been away. That feeling, it was such a
Interesting.
delight, an instant feeling. And I said to all the other people who hadn't been there, I said, "Just listen, let me call out a minute." And I said, "Children, are you here? Do you recognize me? Do you know my voice? Can you come and play?" And dug, 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 dug. You hear someone running up and down the stairs. And they were like, "Oh my God, there's someone running up and down the stairs." And it's just as like they'd either recognise my voice or recognise my energy entering there. But the house felt like I'd walked home, that I'd just come home after not being there
Interesting.
for 11 years. So the feeling was just, incredible. It's very warm for me, very sort of moving to
Yeah.
walk back in there and think, oh, that moving,
Wow.
I've seen an apparition here. I know what happened. I never told anybody anything that I'd seen and happened there. Only that the apparition I'd seen was there in that area. I hadn't told them anywhere, and we had lots of noises, taps, and we saw one of our friends on the other side, her face change through the glass, and so very, very active place, absolutely brilliant place. So
Man.
it was
When,
just that feeling, that quite heartfelt feeling of walking back like I'd never left
yeah,
after 11 years. But
that is
the
incredible, man.
fun sort of connection I have with that house.
That
I don't
face that
know
you
what.
saw scrunched up against the window before
Yeah,
you saw the apparition, was that the same man? Was that the
yeah,
same?
that was him. The same beard. But although his nose was squashed, you imagine the face pushed against his nose was squashed,
Yeah.
but you could see the mustache and all of that. And I'm thinking, I know there's nobody out there because I've been around and had a look. So I thought, okay, if it is a real spirit, let's see whether they will join us. Spirit, can you come and join us? We've just seen you. Thank you for that. We really appreciate your effort. But can you come and join us in the corridor? And I'm thinking, oh. And as I looked around, he was standing there and thinking, because I saw something in my peripheral vision. I thought, which often happens, you look and it's gone. And
Yeah.
as I turned around, he was looking at me and I was looking at him, thinking, "Oh my God, what am I actually seeing here?" And I looked at his face, and he was like either looking at me or looking down the corridor. I don't know, but it was the same face that was pressed against the glass, exactly the same,
Wow.
other than the squashed nose, obviously.
Man.
So,
Paul, you've blown my
um,
mind tonight, brother. You really have.
oh, I could go on for hours, man. I've had so
Incredible.
many experiences,
Yeah.
such, heart touching experiences in my paranormal world.
Hmm.
I've had my near misses and I've had my lesson taught to me,
Yeah.
but I find it quite emotional, really,
Hmm.
reliving it all because
Absolutely.
it's a passion that I just love. Just
Yeah.
love to do it.
Man, well, I have to say, a lot of people talk very highly of you, sir,
Thank
and
you.
I can see why. Incredible stuff, man.
Yeah,
Incredible.
we don't make up stuff. We go there very skeptical.
Hmm.
We want the house to prove to us it's haunted. We don't say, "Oh yeah, welcome to a very haunted location." We say, "Welcome to a location. We hope you enjoy the night, and what you put in is what you get out."
Hmm.
Spirit want to interact, they will. If they don't want to play ball tonight, they won't. So, you know, with various groups, with various experiences, if you want to do table tipping, we can do that. If you want to do Ouija board, you can do that. If you want to do, media scrying or all sorts of different things, we do human pendulum. We
Hmm.
create a circle and get spirit to come in the circle. So people can experience different types, and we've done a 14th century theatre near where we live, and we've had coat hangers tapping. We say, "We're going now, spirit. So, you're not going to willing to pay with us." And as we open the door, we can tap, 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 and hear a coat hanger tapping the railing. But it wasn't the draft. shut the door and said, okay, Spirit, can you move the hanger to let us know that you really want to interact, and you could see the hanger. Five of us saw the hanger actually turn, and they're like, what? What is going on? And voices in the room. So we had a very active night there, which was a brilliant night, but we don't say it's haunted. We say, you tell us at the end what your experience is in this situation.
Hmm.
Obviously, we do private investigation in the houses. We've recently finished a big, like a 9-month investigation in Colchester, which I don't know whether you want to hear about that or.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So we were approached. I did a paranormal talk in Horsham Spiritual Church talking about the paranormal because they'd never had a talk speaker before. They said, would you mind coming and speaking to us? Because I've done various talks. I've done one at an RAF base, a talk on the paranormal. I've done one for the Women's Institute. They were very much interested in that. So we've done lots of talks and that on the paranormal. So we were, what was I saying? I did just get a drink, mate, quickly.
That's cool.
Yeah, so I did a talk for Horsham Paranormal. Then they said, can you do an evening in the church? Because part of the church was a Masonic lodge. So he said, yeah, okay, yeah, we'll do that. So we started off doing the talk, showing them about the equipment. And, it's about 35 people there. So they were just, we were showing about the equipment and we had the voice recorders going. And as we were all sitting there and showing them, bits of slides, this is what's done with these. And we could hear like someone knocking on the door. It was like a fire door. And these women saying, oh, there's someone knocking on the door. So I said, okay, everybody be quiet. Spirit, is that you knocking on the door? Knock, knock, knock. So the lady said, I'll go and open the door in case someone's trying to come in. Open the fire exit, nobody there. So, well, okay. So people are now going, well, I definitely heard a knock. So with the Spirit, thank you for your interaction. Do you think you could come in the room? And we heard a loud bang in the back of the room. And one of the people who's a very switched on medium said there's a man standing in the corner of the room. She could see him standing there. I couldn't see him. I don't think Jen did, but we could sense something was behind us. So we carried on with the talk, had a break. So then we did an investigation into the rest of the church. So we went into what would be the Masonic part of the church. So we got the laser grid spread against the wall, lots of orbs in the cameras, that sort of stuff. And then I was in there with 4, 5, maybe 6, 7, 8 people. So we were all very quiet. So in Spirit, can you? And we could see what looked like a shadow in the corner of the room, but we couldn't be sure. So I walked down there. So it's not a shadow off the street lighting. It's not, trying to debunk it, just trying to get through, see what it was. So we walked back and we're standing there, and these people were quite newbie to the sort of things. They're saying, oh, what do you think that is? So I don't know. Let's see if we can get it to come out of the shadows. So I said, Spirit, can you come out and join us in the room? Or can you sit in a seat? Can you do something? And in the laser grid, we could see what looked like a shadow walking along and came to the centre seat in the lodge. And we're all looking at each other thinking, and I didn't say anything because I knew what I could see. I knew what I could see in the chair. And I was saying to anybody, can you see anything? Somebody said there's a man sitting in a chair with a tall hat. And she'd never done this before. She said, I can see him. I said, what does he look like? Making out I couldn't see it. She's got like a robe type, like a white robe and a big tall hat on. And she said to her friend, can you see it? She said, well, I can't see it. And another couple of people said, I can see him. He's in the chair, isn't he? And I'm looking, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to suggest anything. So I'm saying, well, tell me what you can see. Well, he's there. He's in like what looks like a white robe. So can you see any facial features? No, it's dark. It's very dark around the place. So there was no facial features. So they're all, and then suddenly this other woman a man couldn't see it. They said, there he is. I could see it. I could see someone sitting in the chair. And I said, thank you, Spirit, for that. We really appreciate that. And with that, he got up, walked across the green and disappeared. And we were like, everybody's looking at each other. And I didn't say anything because I didn't want to suggest, can you see that? Because sometimes you can say, did you hear that knock? And people say, oh, yeah, I did hear that knock. And it's that power of suggestion again.
Hmm.
Well, if I see something, I'll just say, anybody see anything? I won't say anything. And they saw what I'd seen. I saw it first because I see it appear. I thought he's in a robe with a hat. It's a white robe, but
Wow.
you couldn't see his facial features. And it was like you could see his hands over the edge of the seat. So you could make out what looked like dark fingers over the edge of the seat. And even when we came out of there and walked to the room, they were all chatting amongst themselves saying, he was in a white robe, wasn't he, with a hat? We- And they really couldn't believe what we'd seen. And I, for one, couldn't believe what I'd seen. But I thought, well, okay, they've shown us a sign. We
Yeah.
asked for it, and there it is. So,
Wow.
we have done, say, talked to the WI and to the RAF. We did one there. We did a thing at RAF called Meet the Investigator, because a lot of people in the paranormal world have never met an investigator. So it was their time to get familiar with what you do and why you do it and how you do it and
Hmm.
what equipment and the answers you come to. And, that was a very, very good night. They thoroughly enjoyed it and some really good feedbacks. And I met some terrific and some absolutely wonderful people in my travels through the paranormal world. Like, with Jen, I met Jen through a paranormal experience.
Hmm.
Um, and then from there on, I've met some real terrific people in the paranormal world. There's can be a lot of backstabbing, a lot of nastiness because you've got evidence that they want, that type of stuff. But we're above that. We're not
Hmm.
ego driven. We do it for the passion of learning, and we treat it like every day's a school day.
Hmm.
Every investigation we go, something different happens. So we can't say, "Oh yeah, been there, done that, got the t-shirt," because we haven't.
Yeah. We're still
We haven't.
learning.
We're still learning. Every time we go out, we learn. We learn something different. And that's
Awesome,
what
man.
excites
Awesome.
me. That's what gives me the passion of learning
Absolutely.
something different.
You was
So,
you. I think you was going to tell us what happened in Colchester. I've
oh,
got.
sorry, yeah.
I've got to
Do you know
know,
what?
man.
I got completely, yeah. So I did a paranormal talk down in Horsham, and the lady approached me, said, a friend of mine has an issue in a house. Would you be interested? Would uh, would you mind if I could talk to you? I said, no, of course you can talk to me. I'm easygoing, and I'll talk to anybody. And I'll talk to people for hours, and they're say, oh, you're so knowledgeable, and it's just through experience and research and all the stuff. So I said, yeah, of course you can. So we went and had a cup of coffee, and Jen was doing like spiritual readings there. So she said, I hope I'm not holding you. I said, no, no, no. Right, what's going on? She said, well, a friend of mine lives in a house. She didn't really give a lot away, but she's got issues happening in the house and she's quite scared. So I said, okay, what type of issues? She said, well, things go missing, can't find things, shoes go missing, and it's always the right foot, right shoe that's always missing, never the left one, and a series of all weird and wonderful things. She said, would you be interested to help us get to the bottom of what's going on? So I said, yeah, we'd be interested. Of course, being as we are, we don't charge hundreds and hundreds of pounds to do it. We had just looked to cover our diesel because it was in culture, so it was about a 2 hour run for us.
Hmm.
So all we said was we looked for just a contribution to the diesel. So, some groups charge phenomenal amounts of money to do it, but we're not in the game to do that. Obviously, we need to cover our costs, but we're in it because we're in it. We think to help people.
Hmm.
Spirit put us here to help people that are having things. So anyway, so we made arrangements, and the lady who contacted us, she said, we'll meet you in Colchester at this address. So she gave us the address. So off we went to the house, found the house, beautiful house on a massive housing complex, but it had a very old water tower, which is what you find in a very old asylums. All the water towers, if you research it, you or your listeners, the water tower is the only thing that's ever left from where would have stood an asylum. So whether that's, they can't do it, it's protected, I don't know the reason why.
Hmm.
And you'll hear the reason why we found out. So we're going to the house, beautiful house, very welcoming, very warm, not threatening. And she'd sent me a few videos on her CCTV different downstairs of various orbs and knocks and taps and footsteps. And she says that sometimes when they go to sleep at night, she'll just be in that state of drifting off when the bed will start to really shake violently. Then wakes her up, and she gets up, and then she's like can hear the noises, but her husband doesn't feel any of it. But she swears behind the bed shakes. So she gets up, goes downstairs, looks around, but then can't go to sleep because now she's got this triggering around in her head. So okay, so we went through a few things with her. So okay, what else has happened? She said, well, the bed vibrates, so I know something's going to happen that night. So that, sure enough, the bed vibrates, hears noises downstairs. So she's gone downstairs, and the heavy kitchen stool is up on the stool on the top of the breakfast bar, where all the other stools are still down. So she's thinking, well, what could lift that up there? So she's gone back up. Pardon me, her husband's still asleep. So she, well, it's only them that live in the house. The daughter's is a air steward, so she's backwards and forwards, but she's not in the house. She's gone away for 3 or 4 days. So she's explaining, took a picture and showed us the picture of the store and said, okay, what else happens? So she's gone for various stories. So she said the strangest thing that happens is she, oh, that's right. I went back to work and trying to work out what's going on. And she phoned me up and said, I really need your help. My car keys have gone missing and I can't find them. She said, but I need to get out. I need to get going. So I said, okay, take the phone into the lounge. So I'm like trying to like connect with the house. So I'm saying, spirit in the house, you need to return the keys now because we need them back and we need them now. And I said to her, can you feel anything? She said, well, the curtains moved. So to go over to the curtain, sure enough, on the curtain tie back was her keys hanging there for a car. So she's like,
Whoa.
oh my God, I found them. Exactly where the curtain had been moved. She said the keys are hanging behind the curtain. So anyway, she said, right, I've got to go. So off she went. And then she come back a couple of days later, said, well, how are you getting on with the research? But by this time, I'm researching into the area. So I want to know, is it the land that's the issue? Is it the house? Is it whatever around the area? So she said, my husband's just lost a brand new trainer and we can't find it. Can you help us find it? Because he's really going mad because they're expensive trainers. And again, at work, she's phoned me and I said, right, okay, I need to work, but I have to be careful because I don't like doing that remotely. It's like
Mhm.
remote viewing. I don't like doing that because obviously I'm at work, it's a work atmosphere. So I'm saying to Spirit, Spirit, show me where the shoe is. Show me where the trainer is. You've got to show me. We need that trainer. And at that time, I could suddenly go back into her room. And I said, have you got a corner sofa? And she said, yeah, I have. I said, the shoe's behind the corner sofa. She said, no, we've looked. I said, the trainer is behind there. They're showing me a shoe behind the corner. So they pulled it out, and sure enough, there was the trainer behind the sofa.
Whoa.
So it was getting a bit mind blowing.
Yeah.
So I researched shoes missing. And in the 14th, 13th, 14th century, when they built houses, they used to put shoes in the walls to ward off bad spirits, negative energy. So they would put a child's shoe in the wall and then build the house. So the shoe was forever gone.
Oh,
So the shoe,
wow.
shoe was to ward off any demons or any energies, any negative stuff. And that's why often they're renovating houses and they come across shoes in the walls. It's because that's what they would have done during them days. So I thought, well, okay, the trainer pressed against the wall could be that it wants to put a shoe behind the wall, but obviously it can't. So I said, okay, fair enough. So I said, right, this is what's happened and this is why they're doing it. And she said, you ain't going to believe what's happened this morning. So, okay, so the energy builds and then drops again. Nothing happens for weeks. So 2 weeks have passed and she rang me out. She said, you ain't going to believe what's happened. I said, go on then, let's do this. So she took pictures of everything. So they've come down in the morning and all the shoes are up the stairs, stacked together all the way up the stairs in a pair with the shoelaces tied together. So all the shoes are upstairs with the shoelaces tied together. So I'm thinking, okay, what would be doing that? She said, takes me into like the breakfast dining room and the net curtains are folded back but tied in a knot. And I'm thinking, okay, so what's going on here? And various other things, the pictures were turned around the opposite way and various things. And I'm thinking, well, this is complete. I said, right, we need to come down there and investigate, but just give me a little bit of chance. I want to find what's going on in the area. What's causing this issue? And she's saying, why ask? I said, do you have lots of houses go up for sale and are sold? She said, oh, there's hundreds of houses up and sold all the time. So I said, have you spoken to your neighbours about this? She said, I'm not telling them my house is haunted. She said, I'm not doing it because the rumour will spread and then nobody will buy your house and, etc. She said, but there's a lady that lives behind us and she's a bit of an eccentric lady. She keeps herself to herself. She's got a little dog and she comes in and out and just always says hello and doesn't say anything else. So one day, my client's husband was out to clean his car and she came out. He said, morning, how are you? Yeah, okay. He said, can I ask you sounds like a really strange question? She said, yeah, of course, really bluntly. Do you have strange things happen in your house? She said, yeah. He said, can I ask you what? She said, the bed vibrating. My shoes are stacked up the stairs and the shoelaces are tied together. The net curtains keep getting tied together. The keys are appearing in different places around the house. All these sorts of things. And he said, oh, right. She said, what's happening yours? He said, oh, just a very similar sort of thing. He's gone back and told his wife, he's saying, you ain't going to believe what she's just said. So anyway, there I was, probably 3 weeks into the investigation. No, probably 3-4 months, really. And then I start to do a survey. So I'm looking at the Ordnance Survey of the area in. So back in 1873, there was an asylum built on a 300-acre site. So it's 300 acres. So that's approximately the site of the housing estate is on there now. So it's 300 acres, this asylum. Okay. So it was built around 1893. And it was a very, very famous asylum in Colchester. And we can tell you the asylum. It's called Severals. So, your viewers can look it up. Anyway, so I'm researching into it. So in the 1900s, and it would take the overflow from London, Kent, Surrey, of all the people that they couldn't fit into the hospital. So they took the overflow into Colchester. And any one time there would be anywhere between 13 to 1,400 people in that asylum. So as they came 1900, it's difficult to get an answer. So you have to go to the census. So I joined the library in Colchester, gave my sister's address because you can't join from out of the area. I gave my sister's address and went to the 1900 census. So there they were in the census, all these people. Okay. So the census is taken every 10 years. So I thought, okay, I go 10 years on. 10 years on, there's no one there. The names have disappeared. So I'm like, well, how can that be? But it was still an asylum. Okay, so then I've gone back. So I thought, right, okay, you can see how it turns into 9 months of research, trying to find out, is it the land? Is it the building? Is there something on the land? So eventually I get to around 1909, 1910, the army take over part of Severals Asylum because we're heading into the First World War. So they're training soldiers. They're using it as a soldier because it's on a 300-acre site. So they were using the whole of some of the asylum to train soldiers. So on 1910, 1912, the people were still there, but the army then, halfway through the year of 1912, the army take over the whole of the asylum. So I think at that time, 900 people had disappeared, gone, but nobody knows where because they don't reappear on the census. So we don't know what's happened. But the army take over the whole of Severals. So they use it as they're bringing the injured back from the World War One as a hospital, training soldiers. The soldiers will go there, be trained, and then sent off to France and the asylum and back, on the front line and all of that. And a lot of soldiers were coming back with what we now know is obviously it took me months of research because when you start to look into bits of the MOD, it's a little bit difficult.
Mm-hmm.
It's blocked and stopped. You're not that sort of thing. So what they were doing was bringing them back when they were injured or they were having mental issues. And what we know as PTSD now was known as shell shock in them days. So they would say they were shell shock. So what they would do was bring them back there, say that, oh, yeah, they're cured because they'd had months of rehabilitation and send them back to the front line, even though they were still shell shocked. And a lot of them wouldn't go over the top and, various terrible things would happen to them because they wouldn't obey instructions. So lots of things happened to him over the period of time. So I went on to another 10 years. So I'm now into about 1920s. And it had gone, the war had finished, and the army had left the asylum, and it had become an asylum again. So again, these names, none of these names appeared anywhere in in the census 10 years later. Only one name appeared in the very first one and the very last one. So I'm thinking, okay, this is the link. The name has come up again. So it was a family that was there. And they worked in Colchester but fell on hard times. So they ended up going to the asylum because the asylum was a part of a workhouse. So you would have, how terrible things happened in the workhouses in them times.
Mm-hmm.
But what I managed to find out was the daughter had gone missing between the first census and the second. So it comes up as family, but there's only three of them: a husband, a wife, and a son. But the daughter was missing from the beginning. So in them days, they were allowed to experiment on people, because if you were put into an asylum in them days, you were deemed not fit for society. So nobody would ever worry. Nobody would have money to look after you in the correct way and all of that. So they would just leave you there. So they were, and when I looked into the history of going back there at the asylum and the surgery, this is how they advanced in surgery through practicing lobotomies and all these sorts of things. And there's a couple of examples of, there was a woman that was walking around biting people because of her mental illness, so they just took her teeth out. So that cured that problem. There was another woman that was going all the time at people, so they cut her tongue off. So
Whoa.
it wasn't regulated in that time.
Mm-hmm.
So really, they could get away with doing. So what? And the other thing we couldn't find was a graveyard on site. In 300 acres, there was not a graveyard, only a water tower, what they called a water tower. So I managed to get an aerial view of the water tower, but it's the only water tower I've ever seen that's got a cover over it, like a roof. So how does it collect water? If it's a water tower, it's for collecting water. And the closer you look and examine the tower, there's soot marks around the top of the tower. So it can't be water. It's got to be used for either burning something or some. In them days, they never had hot water. Everything was cold water. So they were washing cold water. They were hosed down in cold water. Everything was cold because you never had like hot running water, because in them days, they never had it, just had cold water.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously the sanitary was just as bad. So anyway, so one realised as I'm reading through the story of the history, so what they would do is they would tie the people's shoelaces together, the impatients, to stop them running away. So if they got their shoes on, the shoelaces would be tied together. And what also he did, if they had curtains, they would tie the curtains in a knot so they couldn't hang themselves, which is exactly what's happening in this woman's house. The net curtains, the shoes, the shoelaces being tied together, and they would hide various shoes in their room. So, the staff couldn't find shoes for them, so they couldn't go out. And it's only one of the only asylums known that the patients wouldn't walk outside. They would walk, it's connected by tunnels underground. So they would never actually see the light of day. So they were always kept,
Oh, wow.
so nobody would see them. It's always underground. And they would hide shoes under their beds. And it was always the right shoe that they would hide. So now it's given me indications it's got to be a spirit from the asylum that's doing this. So
Wow.
we went back down there, and this was about 8 months into it. So we had a name, we had a reason, and we knew why it was happening, because it was built on an asylum on 300 acres. So this housing is let. So the lady the client we were dealing with knew the lady who was in charge of the building when it was building into a housing estate. So he said, would it be possible to interview her, just to ask her if they come across anything when they were building? And she asked them, and she said, no. What you've got to remember is them days, you couldn't halt up the building work because it was millions and millions of pounds at stake. So she said, I'm not saying we did stumble on anything at all, nothing like that, but it would have held up the building, and we couldn't do that, hold the building work. So anyway, because in them days, if they were building on a cemetery or somewhere, they would just knock the gravestones down and build on top of it.
Hmm.
hence why you get energy through the land. So we went down there. It was about 8 months. So we turned up there, and it was her friend, and a couple of other people. So, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to call the spirit to come in. We now know why. So I went through it, showed her, and I did a PowerPoint. So it showed her everything that I'd been doing over the months. And it literally was 9 months, Janita, of hours and hours and hours of looking up, researching into early hours, contacting people, contacting the library, looking for the sensors of the areas to try and get which is the common denominator. It was only this one family. So what we determined was the one family that was missing a daughter couldn't move on until they were a whole family. So we walked in there and we sort of did a bit of a seance. And sure enough, we heard a noise of someone coming in the room. We're saying, Spirit, is your name so and so? And I had my voice recording. We had my voice recorded. So we're like, oh, wow. Now we know we've got it. We're on it. And we're saying, Spirit, are you looking for your daughter? Is that what you're looking for? And it's
Oh
very, very
man.
quietly. So by this, so leading up to this day, the cushions on the sofa were stacked up like a tower and a toy was put on the top. So it indicated like a water tower. It looked just like the water tower, but Spirit had put cushions, stacked them up and put a toy on the top. And then we're sort of thinking, oh, okay. And every time she made the bed upstairs, she put all the toys away in the wardrobe. And when she come in the morning, the corner of the bed was folded back like it had to in them days, and the toys were tucked into the mattress. And she took pictures of it, even though she put them away. They were back in there the next morning with the bed folded over, like someone had folded their bed over like they should have done. So eventually, we found the daughter and brought her into the house, the South Gen, and then we reunited them. And then we said a prayer, didn't we, to help them move? Do you want to go to the light? Is there something you would like us to do? And it was on the thing. So we said a prayer, we moved them on, and the whole house completely changed. And everybody's
Wow.
sitting there going, why is it so different? It's very emotional. Everybody had tears in their eyes. You could feel the emotional energy.
Wow,
And yet,
man.
and months later, I phoned her. I said, how is it? She's like a different house. Said, we've had nothing. Said, we have knocks and taps, but we're okay with that. She said, but the main issues, we don't have anything anymore. So thank you
Wow.
so much for helping us out of this situation. Said, we would never be able to repay you for what you did for us. So the house is back to our house. So the energy is in the land. There could be numerous spirits wandering around that land. I said, we can do this here. But it's not to say in a year, you may well get another one in, but we
Hmm.
don't know. But it's nearly a year now, and she knocks and tats, but nothing else has happened. No shoes, no keys, no stools,
Wow.
nothing. So
That's incredible.
quite an amazing case for us. It's nine
Absolutely.
months in doing it for nothing,
Yeah.
but it's one of the most amazing cases that we've worked on. So
Wow. And that's why it's so important what you guys do. You're helping people. You're finding out some incredible history as well. I mean, wow, man. Do
yeah,
you
it
know
took
if
me.
the tunnels are still under the houses, or are they gone now?
They're still there
They're still
because
there.
part of the asylum, because it's such a famous asylum, it's listed. But
Hmm.
apparently, what's left there, we went to have a look at because it's like the reception area where you would have gone into it, and apparently there is ways of getting to them, but they're obviously sealed up. Nobody's ever been there, and
God.
even in history of looking through, I found in 1970, 1980s, there was some urban explorers that went there and they found the tunnels and they were filming in the tunnels. So I contacted them and said to them, this is what we're doing. How did you get, what was it like? And they said it's the most incredible feeling in the tunnels because it was as dark and you could feel that there was people in the tunnel with us. He said, I'm
Oh,
not a great believer in the
wow.
paranormal. I'm just an urban explorer. But he said, I know there was four of us in there and we were so scared halfway down the tunnel. We ended up leaving and we don't get scared because we're there to explore. He said it was so scary down the tunnel. We were left.
Wow.
Well, as far as I can understand now, the tunnels are sealed up and nobody can ever go there again,
That's
which is a shame, really.
incredible. Yeah.
It's
Just
a
think they're
massive
just,
part of history
yeah, man.
sitting under the ground. But We
Incredible
never did
stuff.
find in a 300-acre site. We never did find a burial ground anywhere. Never listed one. I think so. We're never sure whatever
Do you think
happened.
they were possibly burning the bodies?
I don't know because we
That's
used an app.
incredible.
We used an app once we were there, and the voice came through. Whether you believe apps, ITCs. We tried this one, and it said, "Woods, I am buried. Woods." So we went into the woods, and lots of dogs, and she lots of dog walkers there. They go into the woods, but the dogs won't go past a certain point in the woods. They have to turn around and go up a different path.
Interesting.
So that makes it wonder what's there. Obviously, you're never going to get permission to dig up there because they're the original woods that were there. Obviously, they've cut a huge amount of woods, but they're original woods, part of what would have been the original woods. But a lot of dog walkers won't go through there.
Wow.
So, you know, we can't prove that. We can't disprove it. But there was no burial ground there.
Incredible, man.
It's
Cool. I'd
unbelievable.
love to come out with you guys sometime and do an
Absolutely.
investigation, man.
Oh,
That would be.
absolutely. Anytime. You're welcome. Any of
Oh,
your
thank you.
listeners or viewers, any of you are absolutely welcome to come out with us anytime. Say we have a Paranormal Monday Night Live. We talk about our investigations, equipment. We have guest speakers on there. We've had a lady on there talk about past life regression and taking you back into a part. It's just the most amazing talk I've ever heard. We talk about equipment. We have a fun time because we love
Awesome.
it. We have the passion, and they're very welcome to tune in. Give their comments. We have people from Texas, all over America comment. You know, we've been going for nearly 2 years now. And so I promised my dearest friend that sadly passed away that we would keep it going, and we have,
Mhm.
and we will
Oh,
through,
awesome, man.
and we will keep it going. You know, and
That's awesome.
it could be one day that we'll contact you and have you on there, mate.
Oh, I'd love to, man. I've had some
Yeah,
weird stuff. I've had some freaky experiences for sure. So
they're
I'd
great
love
for
to.
it. Great for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Awesome
I'll send
stuff,
you
man.
when we get because we have lots of people, lots of paranormal groups come on talk about their experiences. But it'd be
Mhm.
great to have you on
I'd
when
love
we get
to. I'd
Andy,
be
when we get
honored.
Andy on. Yeah,
Yeah. Awesome, man.
honestly, mate,
Awesome
we'll
stuff, brother.
contact
So
you.
that's every Monday.
But
Where can
every
people
Monday,
find that?
it's on our Facebook group. It's called Monday Night Paranormal Live, and it's streamed through StreamYard on South Coast Ghosts, which is
Awesome.
Angela,
Mhm.
which was with us, and it was so it's done through South Coast Ghosts. But if you go on there, go on and follow, and you'll get a link to say that we're live. We do from around about 8:15. We don't have a set time because getting home from work, we're having a dinner, all sorts of things, and then we talk for around about an hour, sometimes less, sometimes a bit more, depending who we've got on there. And you know yourself how time runs on
Mhm.
with you because you're so engrossed into it. We realise, you've done
Absolutely.
an hour and 30 minutes, but we do that every Monday night. So, and it's a passion we love. Listen to other people's experiences, other people's, other groups that can debunk stuff. And, we put videos on there and pictures and say, what's your view, and we accept everybody's views. We don't say, oh, no, that's wrong.
Mhm.
We accept everybody's view.
Yeah.
We all
I
have
think
different
that's
views,
important.
different
Yeah.
pictures, and we accept what they say. They might say, oh, no, it's a shadow of a tree. You have to accept that because that's what they're seeing.
Mhm.
To us, it's not, but to them, so we accept that. We don't get upset. We don't get ego driven. No, that's not what we just
Mhm.
say, okay, fair enough. That's your view of it. Anybody else, they might say, well, I can see a face or, and people see various different things because our brain works in various different ways.
Yeah.
We
I
can
think
see
that's
things.
important. Yeah. I think that's important to be open to all the possibilities and to not get
Yeah,
upset if someone doesn't agree. I think that's the way to
no,
be, man.
no,
Absolutely.
we do not get upset with people's comments. You get some comments you think, well, it's a little bit uncalled for, but
Mhm.
okay, we accept that comment and we're all happy to go with that. That's your view. We know our view, and that's your view, and we're happy to go along with that. Obviously, we monitor what goes on there because obviously you can get some quite nasty things
Yeah.
going on there, and we're not into downgrading any other paranormal group. We invite every paranormal group to come and join us on there,
Mhm.
and we love it.
Yeah.
So
Awesome, man. You guys are awesome. And I hope this is
yeah,
the first of many conversations. I know we've met
Absolutely.
before in the
Yeah,
flesh. I'd love to meet you again in the flesh and go
absolutely.
investigating with you, man. But thank you so much for your time tonight. I
Very,
really
you're very welcome,
appreciate it.
mate.
Thank you
If there's
very
anything
much.
else you need, you know how to get hold of me. And you need anything, just contact me anytime. If viewers
Thank
want
you.
to chat about something or they ask you a question, give us a shout. We're
Where's the
willing.
best place for them to reach you?
If you go on to hostforghostparanormal.com,
Hmm.
and then you can either message me or send an email. If you send an email to, and then the website connects me to my personal email, so it will come on. So I'll try and answer you through that or through the website. It parents me, tells me there's visitors on the website because I put a lot of our investigations on there, videos and who we've chatted to, a bit of history that we're doing. That so people can go on and have a look at what we're about. There's a bit about myself in the beginning, telling how I got there, why I got there, so they know who I am. And
Hmm.
the people we meet say, you are very genuine. You're very, very honest. And we just love listening to your stories because I've had lots of things happen to me in the 25 years that I've been in the paranormal, and it's lovely to share it with your viewers and people out there that's passionate about the paranormal. It's just my honor to be on your show to
Ah, it's an honor to
let
have you, man.
people listen to our side of the paranormal. And we've had few
Absolutely.
experiences. So
Absolutely,
we're
brother.
very honored to be on your show, mate.
Ah, it's an
Thank
honor
you.
to have you. And I'd love to have you back again. We can talk more,
Sure.
that is for sure.
Anytime.
Thank you.
Anytime.
Thank
We
you
have
so much.
loads of stories. You're very welcome.
The links will be in the show description so people can go and find you right now. And yeah, thank you so much for both your time tonight. It's been a pleasure.
You're
And
very
I'm
welcome.
looking forward to talking more.
Good. Anytime, mate. Contact us anytime.
Thank
You're
you.
very welcome. And we're very
Guys,
honored. Thank you, mate.
it's an honor. Thank you very much.
And to us. Take
Guys,
care.
thank you so much for listening. We hope you've enjoyed the episode. If you have, make sure you share it where you can. That is a great way to support the show. And we'll be back very soon for more freaky conversations. In the meantime, stay safe and keep it freaky. Bye for now. Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome.